Chapter 873. He didn't expect this result at all, and the First City Lord's eyes almost popped out of his head. A little Jadon Stage Jr., even if he had a better protective magic weapon, it was already the top to be able to defend against the attack of the Yuanying stage, but Yang Chun actually blocked his hateful blow. How is this possible? The problem was that now was not the time to discuss whether this was possible. What the First City Lord cared about most was that there were two extremely powerful guys chasing behind him. If Yang Chun didn't get out of the way, he might die on the spot. The blow was fine, but the people behind him took the opportunity to catch up. The First City Lord had to block the footsteps of the people chasing him anyway. The fierce outbreak of the First City Lord, no longer caring about anything else, the spiritual power of his whole body swelled, and he went crazy. Within 100 miles, it was almost like the detonation of buried high-yield explosives. Everywhere was exploding. The rocks, trees, and grasslands were all turned to ashes in this burst of shock. Just like this, there was a piece of land with a radius of hundreds of miles, and almost all the creatures in the circle were shocked to death, leaving no bones. Even the river seemed to be suddenly evaporated, revealing the bare river. The pebbles in the river were also shaken into fine powder. The masters of the Deshang stage went all out. It was extraordinary. However, what made the First City Lord desperate was that not only the master of the Deshang stage Wang Yong was fine, but even the peak Yuanying stage Ho Yun and the Jidon stage Junior Yangchun were actually fine. Wang Yong and Ho Yun tightened the encirclement in a hurry, but Yang Chun was still facing the First City Lord. 2 attacks failed to hurt Yang Chun, and the First City Lord was also a little flustered. In any previous battle, he dared to fight. This time, he didn't know why. There was only escape in his mind and nothing else. In Yang Chen's hand, a blood-red long sword appeared, and the eyes of the First City Lord suddenly focused on the flying sword. The strong instinct of the monster race told him that this sword was quite dangerous. The eyes of the ferocious ghost head on the sword hilt seemed to be staring at him, as if it was going to cut him in half at the waist in the next moment. He didn't know why he, a Mahayana stage cultivator, intuitively felt that the flying sword was dangerous, but he didn't doubt his feeling. This intuition had saved his life countless times. The figure of the First City Lord stopped abruptly in the air, and his scimitar appeared in his hand again. Although there were some cracks on it, it was still his natal magic treasure after all. It was still easier to use than other magic treasures. Yang Chun had already rushed forward. This was an extremely unacceptable scene. A master of the Deshang stage stood in the same place because of fear, while a junior in the Jidon stage rushed up madly. The roles of the two seemed to have changed. The blood-red sword shadow cut down sharply, and the First City Lord subconsciously blocked it, but immediately realized that it was not good. He clearly felt that something was wrong with the flying sword, so why did he use his natal magic weapon to block it? However, it was too late to think about it at this time. With a soft sound, the flying sword of the First City Lord was easily broken into 2 pieces. A shrill scream came out of the mouth of the First City Lord, and his natal magic weapon was completely destroyed, which almost took half of his life. Who could have thought that Yang Chen's flying sword would be so sharp that even the natal magic weapon of a master of the Deshang stage could not block a blow? His spiritual awareness was hit hard in an instant. This was not the kind of pain that Ho Yun smashed the magic weapon, but the shock of the spiritual awareness caused by the complete destruction of the magic weapon. The pain of the destruction of the natal magic weapon, coupled with the pain of the spiritual awareness being hit hard. At this moment, the First City Lord was in so much pain that he wanted to die. But Yang Chun did not have the slightest thought of holding back. The blood demon vine, flying sword in his hand, directly cut down, cutting through the clothes of the First City Lord, cutting his skin, and firmly cutting into his shoulder. The blood in his whole body seemed to be attracted by something, rushing madly to the wound on his shoulder. The First City Lord tried his best to control it, but he couldn't succeed. He could only feel the fear of his blood being absorbed by the magic sword. Although his mind was clear, the strength of the First City Lord's whole body seemed to have disappeared with his blood being absorbed. His legs could no longer support his body, and he softly slumped to the ground, unable to move. When Elder Hua was still in the Yuanying stage, she was controlled by the blood demon vine and did not die. Now the first city lord, who was already in the middle Deshang stage, naturally would not die, but just like Elder Hua, he couldn't resist. At Yang Chen's side, there suddenly appeared the pretty Gong Sunling looking at the first city lord who was paralyzed on the ground. Gong Sunling's eyes immediately burst into a group of light. The first city lord instinctively felt that it was going to be bad. Sure enough, Gong Sunling stepped forward and he didn't know what trick she used. The first city lord only felt that he was dazzled, and everyone suddenly disappeared, leaving only him alone on the scene. Not to mention the situation of the first city lord being received into the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chun and others breathed a sigh of relief. The first city lord had been controlled, so there was no big obstacle in the banyan tree to Immortal's cave. The reason why he had to seriously injure the first city lord was that Yang Chun was afraid that Gong Sunling could not suppress the master of the Deshang stage. Anyway, after his injury recovered, Gong Sunling's realm had already been improved, and her control would become more and more strict. At that time, even if the first city lord knew that he was in an illusion, it would be impossible to break free. Without the constraints of the first city lord, the old tree demon Gue Shanyu could control the banyan tree immortal's cave 100 times faster. Originally, he was afraid that the first city lord would find out and destroy the immortal's cave. Now, he didn't have to worry about this problem at all. The old tree demon could do his best. Ho Yun swaggered into the immortal's cave with Yang Chun. The things that happened to Yang Chun in the immortal's cave were still fresh in many people's memories. When they saw Yang Chun, it was as if they had seen a ghost. The monster race was not without brains. The last time the second city lord chased Yang Chun, he never came back. This time the first city lord suddenly chased out in anger, and Yang Chun swaggered into the immortal's cave, which seemed to have explained a lot of problems. With the help of Yang Chun, Ho Yun easily became the current city lord of the immortal's cave. Several guys who dared to resist were directly beaten into meat paste by Ho Yun. The bloody fact told everyone in the Immortal's Cave that this place had changed, and it was no longer the previous Immortal's Cave. The monster race had always respected strength. It was not unusual for such a city lord to take turns. Soon the monster race in the Immortal's Cave accepted the news that the city lord had been replaced. Yang Chun could finally rest assured for the time being, and didn't have to worry too much about the Immortal's Cave. Now Yang Chun was planning another conspiracy against the Taishaman's young sect master Li Liheng, and it was about to succeed. Chapter 874. In the few months before Yang Chun went out, Li Liheng had been taking the spirit congealing pills given by Yang Chun. Yang Chun could even judge how many pills he had eaten by the degree of his spiritual awareness condensation. However, after 2 or 3 years, Yang Chun found that Li Liheng's spiritual awareness condensation had not changed for a few months. Although the spirit congealing pills given by Yang Chun were only medicinal pills to assist in the cultivation of spiritual awareness and could condense the spiritual awareness to a certain extent, this kind of medicinal pill was a medicinal pill of the spiritual world. For the people of the mortal world, because the strength of the spiritual awareness was not strong enough, the degree of condensation was also very limited. However, Li Liheng and the people of Taishaman were already very excited. The medicinal pill that could condense the spiritual awareness, even if it was not Li Liheng who had a problem with his spiritual awareness, could use it. It was precisely for this reason that the senior leaders of Taishaman allowed several elders of the medicinal hall to boldly study the spirit congealing pills. If they could study the refining method, then the Taishaman would be no less than having a divine weapon. Unfortunately, with their current level of alchemy, not to mention studying the refining method, even the materials used could not be fully understood. After consuming hundreds of pills in vain, nothing was researched. Such a result even led to the medicinal pills that Li Liheng had enough to use. Now, there were hundreds more of them. Yang Chun had said in advance that one pill will be taken half a month for 30 years, and it would guarantee a full recovery. Moreover, the last time he gave the Taishaman medicinal pills, he had already given them enough, and it was just the right amount. This time, the Taishaman were in trouble. When Yang Chun got up and left Chunyang Palace for the 10,000 Trees Forest, Li Liheng's medicinal pills were not much, only enough for 2 years. The spiritual awareness condensation had not changed for a long time, and Yang Chun immediately noticed this. Although he did not know what happened, it was certain that Li Liheng was in big trouble. So, in the middle of Li Liheng's cultivation, Yang Chun suddenly asked through his spiritual awareness, "Are you a disciple of my Taishaman?" The trans-realm spirit cultivation technique. As soon as he asked this, he did not care about Li Liheng's feelings and directly threw his spiritual consciousness imprint into the long river of blood again. This time, Li Liheng felt like he was in heaven and hell at the same time. Heaven was because he once again felt that majestic divine sense. The other party even asked if he was a disciple of the Taishaman, and if he cultivated the trans-realm spiritual cultivation technique. In hell, his illness acted up again, and he fainted for no reason. After waking up, Li Liheng immediately reported what had just happened to the sect master. Hearing that the other party actually knew the trans-realm spirit refinement art, the sect master and several core elders were surprised and overjoyed. Needless to say, he must be a senior of the Taishaman. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know the name of this technique. It must be known that this cultivation technique was originally hidden in the secret land of the Taishaman, and it was well kept. Even the elders of the scripture pavilion did not know that there was such a cultivation technique, let alone outsiders. A senior with a vast and majestic spiritual awareness and knew the trans-realm spirit refinement art, and asked if he was a disciple of the Taishaman. All of this has already indicated the identity of the senior. He was definitely an elder of the Taishaman in the spiritual world or the immortal world. There was no doubt about it. That senior could communicate with the trans-realm spirit refinement art with his spiritual awareness. Presumably, he was also a person who cultivated a unique cultivation technique. Maybe he had been waiting for this for many years. How exciting it was to be able to establish contact with the disciples of the lower realms. For the Taishaman of the mortal world, this was simply the #1 event in the world. Even if the sect master suddenly died, it was estimated that it was not as important as this matter. However, at this juncture, Li Liheng's spirit congealing pills were gone. Not only that, but Li Liheng also fell into a coma again because he did not take it continuously for enough time, leading to a relapse of the old disease. At this moment, the Taishaman's sect master Li and several core elders even had the heart to strangle the several elders of the medicinal hall. A good thing, because they vowed to be able to thoroughly study the spirit congealing pills and be able to replicate it successfully. They spent hundreds of pills but fell short of success. If these pills were taken by Li Liheng, wouldn't it be able to cure the stubborn disease and communicate with the elders of the spiritual world and immortal world? Why would there be a need for a consciousness clone to descend to the lower realms? The sect master and several elders were also very regretful. If they had known earlier, they would not have agreed to the few guys of the medicinal hall. Moreover, because of the previous concealment, Li Liheng's status in the sect plummeted after he fell ill. Otherwise, how could he let those elders take away hundreds of spirit congealing pills without daring to say anything? These needed to be checked and filled in the gaps in the following time. But this was a long-term thing and could not be done in one go. But Li Liheng's problem was quite tricky. Without the spirit congealing pills, the old disease relapsed, and the hope that was easily seen was shattered. It was really unreconciled. Fortunately, there were still people who could refine this kind of spirit congealing pills, but they were not people of the Taishaman. Since Yang Chun could promise to refine it once, it was very likely that he would promise to refine it a second time. The problem was that Yang Chun was the enemy of the Taishaman who hated him so much that they wanted to kill him. Originally, they saw that he could refine pills, so they had to temporarily suppress their hatred and disgust and feign civility. It was already very suffocating. Did they have to continue? On the one hand, they could communicate with the elders of the spiritual world and immortal world in time, saving them from paying the price of thousands of years of cultivation of several great principal golden immortals every 100 years. On the other hand, there was a guy who they wanted to get rid of. Which was more important? It seemed easy to make a decision. No matter how hateful Yang Chun was, he only killed a junior of the foundation stage of the Taishaman, indirectly killed 6 Yuanying stage masters, and then killed a large number of killers entrusted by the Taishaman. Simply speaking, there was not much hatred, especially when everyone understood that Li Qingchen provoked Yang Chun first. In this way, it was not so unacceptable to let Yang Chun live for a few more years. As long as the problem of Li Liheng was solved in the future, when to kill Yang Chun, it would just depend on everyone's mood on that day. Let him live, and let him refine pills for the Taishaman. Obviously, they wanted Yang Chun to die, but the reality forced them to protect Yang Chun's life with all their might. It had to be said that this was an extremely contradictory thing. This kind of thing may happen frequently among ordinary politicians, but in the cultivation world that pursued detachment, it had almost never happened. This time, it happened to the outstanding Taishaman of the Dao sects. Therefore, the high-level officials of the Taishaman, with an indescribable emotion, once again sent the Foreign Affairs Elder Mao Qi to contact the Chunyang Palace. Chapter 875. Yang Chun was in the 10,000 Trees Forest, but every few months, he thought of throwing Li Liheng's spiritual awareness imprint into the Blood River. Li Liheng, who was far away in Taishaman, did not know how much suffering he had suffered, and it was even more serious than before. When Mao Qi went to Chunyang Palace, of course, they could not get the results they wanted. Yang Chun went out and did not say when he would return. If he was not there, even the palace master did not dare to promise anything for Yang Chun. Of course, these were the excuses of the palace master to deal with Mao Qi. Everyone knew that Yang Chun was now the young palace master of Chunyang Palace. As long as the palace master agreed, Yang Chun would rarely object. But now Taishaman asked Yang Chun for alchemy. Relying on this coercive means to make Yang Chun make a move. It was a last resort. Yang Chun was the main force of alchemy, a 5th-grade alchemist master, who knew what kind of elixir he would refine when he was in a bad mood. In the past, the top executives of Taishaman still valued the several alchemy masters of the medicinal hall very much, but after this incident, they did not dare to put their hopes on these medicinal hall elders, and they still honestly asked for help. What made Mao Qi quite uncomfortable was that Hall Master Mao's visit to Chunyang Palace was not a secret, and it was impossible to hide it from outsiders. Soon, several major sects knew the purpose of Hall Master Mao's visit, and they were a little dissatisfied. Yang Chun made a move once in 25 years, and everyone lined up in line. The first time was not the Taishaman's turn. Taishaman paid a variety of prices to get the opportunity to jump the queue from several major sects. Now, they wanted Yang Chun to make a move twice. Did Yang Chun only have alchemy for Taishaman in the future? Now that the sect had received the news, it meant that the Taishaman were in for another round of trouble. But Hall Chief Mao couldn't complain. Chunyang Palace didn't have the obligation to keep secrets for Taishaman. If you didn't pay the price, why should people keep their mouths shut for you? Moreover, Mao Qi asked Chunyang Palace for help this time. Even if what Chunyang Palace did was a little out of line, he did not dare to complain too much. Moreover, Chunyang Palace did not do anything out of line. The big sect was not a small sect like Chunyang Palace that could be easily solved with threats and temptations. Therefore, Hall Master Mao Qi could only take advantage of the time when Yang Chun had not returned to visit them one by one. He said all kinds of good things and promised all kinds of benefits. In short, he hoped that the big sect would understand. This time, the big sect was not so easy to talk to. For the first time, they let the Taishaman jump the queue, which was already for the sake of face and benefits. Next, the Taishaman privately begged Yang Chun to make a move, and everyone tolerated it. But there was a second time, but there was no third or fourth time. In this world, there was not only the Taishaman Dao sect. The poor Hall Chief Mao said all kinds of good things and showed a smiling face, but he couldn't make the big sect relent. The opportunity that came once in a few decades, the big sect would not give it to others this time. The Taishaman had almost used up their face last time. This time, they would not give up the great benefits. Even the big sect also collectively issued a statement that if the Taishaman broke the rules like this again, the big sect would collectively boycott the Taishaman. The Taishaman could not care less about the alliance of 100 small sects, but the combination of the Green Jade Immortal Island, Blue Cloud sect, and the Five Elements sect and Shinkuan sect could not be underestimated. The big sect added up, the strength was enough to exceed the Taishaman by several times. If the Taishaman did not want to be enemies with the big sect, they could only behave. The problem was that if they behaved well, they could only wait for 100 years. This was still the most conservative estimate. 25 years for each of the big sect was already 100 years. Even if the small sects and masters behind the queue could handle it, it would take 100 years. Not to mention that the masters who could ask for help from Yangchun were basically masters at the peak Yuanying stage and the Deshang stage. 1 or 2 Taishaman could not be ignored, but if they gathered 10 or 8, the Taishaman would not be able to bear the consequences. When had the high and mighty Taishaman ever suffered such anger? Even the last time they conspired against the barren valley of the Five Elements sect, in the end, it was only the mediation of several major sects. Now they had accompanied countless smiling faces, but they still did not achieve their goal. The high-level leaders of the Taishaman were extremely unhappy. If Yangchun was there, it would be fine. They could meet in secret. At worst, they could promise a lot of benefits and let Yangchun secretly agree to help. However, Yangchun was not in Chunyang Palace. This was not because the Chunyang Palace was lying. The compass that could trace Yangchun's whereabouts clearly showed that Yangchun was now in a monster race's territory millions of miles away from Chunyang Palace. Even if he had wings to fly back, it would take a year or 2. Sending masters to the monster race's territory to find Yangchun? The Taishaman were not so stupid. If they sent those with low cultivation bases, they would definitely not be able to return. Yangchun could kill 6 Yuanying stage masters of Taishaman, and he did not care about killing a few more. Sending a master of the Deshang stage? It was just a messenger. The Taishaman were not so extravagant. Everything could only wait for Yangchun to come back. Yangchun didn't know that countless people had been waiting for him. He leisurely accompanied the old tree demon, Ho Yun, and his master ancestor Wang Yong to slowly solve the matter of this banyan tree Immortal's cave. This wait was 9 years, and the crowd completely solved the first city lord and settled in the banyan tree Immortal's cave. The most difficult thing to take down the banyan tree Immortal's cave was that they were afraid that the first city lord would destroy the Immortal's cave when he was desperate, so they used various methods to lure him hundreds of miles away. For this reason, Ho Yin did not hesitate to stage a bitter trick and finally solved it satisfactorily. The old tree demon directly entered the banyan tree Immortal's cave and began to control the banyan tree Immortal's cave from the inside. Yangchun did not hide it and directly brought the old tree demon to the space with the first wood true essence. Over the past few decades, there have been hundreds of drops of first wood true essence accumulated there. Yangchun didn't look at it all, but for the old tree demon, this was a treasure that couldn't be more precious. Countless roots instantly collected the hundreds of drops of first wood true essence and began to absorb them. Ho Yun was a water attribute master. Ancestor Wang Yong was a fire attribute master. The first wood true essence was not very important, and Ho Yun already had the 10th water true essence, so he didn't care. Wang Yong looked a little hot. If it was the 3rd fire true essence or the 4th fire true essence, he might not have to use the heaven-seizing pill, and he would have the confidence to ascend. The comfort of the old tree demon was a serious proof of one thing. That was, going out with Yangchun was definitely a good thing. Gong Sunling got a master of the Deshang stage to be her slave. The old tree demon not only merged with the banyan tree Immortal's cave, but also got the first wood true essence, and his cultivation base went to the next level. Even the ancestor Wang Yong got a powerful spider puppet. The only one who didn't gain much seemed to be Ho Yun. However, as long as this guy could kill happily, he wouldn't care too much. Moreover, the yellow turban strongman body refining technique was enough for him to ascend, and even for thousands of years after ascending. Chapter 876. The speed of the old tree demon absorbing the first wood true essence was faster than that of Yangchun. It took Yangchun half a year to successfully cultivate the first wood true secret art, But the talented monster race like the old tree demon directly absorbed the first with true essence, and it took less than 3 days. Even Shi Kuei and Xie Sha, who had the earth attribute, absorbed the fifth earth true essence for more than a month. It could be seen how powerful the old tree demon's cultivation base was. After having the first wood true essence, the old tree demon, who had absorbed the entire Polai divine wood, seemed to have improved his realm. As long as he thoroughly refined these first wood true essences, his future cultivation would be smooth, and there would be no more fear of the old tree demon of suppressing more than a dozen heavenly tribulations. The next thing was simple. From top to bottom, starting from the monster race with the highest cultivation base, one by one was called to the city lord's living room and persuaded one by one. The Yuanying stage came first. On one hand, there was the threat of 3 masters of the Deshang stage, and at the same time, there were 2 monster race masters of the Deshang stage, as an example, plus the rich resources of Chunyang Palace and the temptation and promise of the 5th grade alchemy master. On the other hand, if they did not cooperate, they would be besieged and thrown into Gong Sunling's Mountain River geographical map to play by themselves. He believed that many monster cultivators would know how to choose. In particular, the master of the Hall of Eccentrics of Chunyang Palace personally recruited them here and promised that as long as their cultivation base reached a bottleneck, there would be corresponding medicinal pills to break through the bottleneck. And Chunyang Palace had gathered the resources of the 100,000 mountains and Banyan Tree Immortal's cave. Such a temptation was simply fatal for these masters. It was no secret that the Dao Sect's cultivators were recruiting masters of the Hall of Eccentrics, and many monster cultivators in the Immortal's cave knew about it. Everyone just felt that here was the best and most suitable for the cultivation of the monster race, so they stayed here. But now the entire Immortal's cave had been controlled by the old tree demon, which was equivalent to the inheritance of these monster race, had fallen into the hands of Chunyang Palace. In this case, few Yuanying stage masters of the monster race would choose other. Everyone joined Chunyang Palace after swearing with their monster soul. Just like that, in just a few dozen days, there were hundreds of Yuanying realm cultivators in Chunyang Palace. And Chunyang Palace did not let them down. After joining, they got a transformation secret art and a 2nd grade inner sensing pill. This transformation art was 100 times better than the transformation arts they cultivated. These nascent soul realm demons were also knowledgeable people, so they immediately understood the value of this transformation art. They were overjoyed as if they had obtained a precious treasure. What also surprised them was the 2nd grade inner sensing pill. This was originally the demon clan's elixir, so there was nothing more suitable than using it on them. The alchemists of the monster race were also rare, and the brilliant alchemists were even more rare. The inner sensing Dan had always been a 1st grade pill, when had they seen a 2nd grade medicinal pill. Just these 2 things made all the Yuanying stage masters who joined Chunyang Palace no longer regret it, and wholeheartedly regarded themselves as members of Chunyang Palace. Then all the Yuanying stage masters collectively retreated for a short period of time. After cultivating the transformation secret art, they took the 2nd grade inner sensing pill to completely eliminate the deviations in the body. After the Yuanying stage masters were solved, the next was the peak Jiedan stage masters. There were more monster cultivators at this stage. There were more than 1,000 of them. They were all trapped in the realm of the peak Jiedan stage, and they could not break through sooner or later. In the Immortal's cave, they cultivated with abundant spiritual power, hoping to be able to successfully cross the tribulation. This situation was actually the most suitable for the 2nd grade inner sensing pill. With the example of the previous Yuanying stage masters, coupled with their understanding of the help of the 2nd grade inner sensing pill for crossing the tribulation and forming the nascent soul, almost as soon as the old tree demon said the idea of recruiting, the monster cultivators of the peak Jiedan stage had already nodded and agreed. In the past, they had never been so happy when recruiting disciples. Yangshin's 2nd grade inner sensing pill suddenly became urgent. Although there were so many peak Jiedan stage masters, not everyone had reached the edge of the tribulation. But since it was a promise, it must be fulfilled. As a last resort, Yang Chun could only open the furnace directly in the banyan tree immortal's cave and began to refine the second-grade inner sensing pill. Fortunately, Yang Chen's current profound spirit furnace was already very magical. As long as Yang Chun refined the first-grade inner sensing pill, he could easily get the second-grade inner sensing pill. But even so, Yang Chun had to spend a full 2 years to refine thousands of second-grade inner sensing pills. Of course, such a huge second-grade inner sensing pill, whether it was an alchemy experience or in absorbing the medicinal qi in the profound spirit furnace, it had countless benefits for Yang Chun. After these more than 1,000 Yuanying stage and peak Jidan stage monster cultivators joined the Chunyang Palace, the control of the banyan tree immortal's cave was basically a matter of certainty. Even if other monster cultivators were unwilling to join the Chunyang Palace, it would not have much impact on the power of the entire banyan tree immortal's cave. Everything that happened here, the head of the palace and the others have already gotten the exact news through the clone of the old tree demon. Every elder who heard this news was so moved that their eyes were brimming with tears. At this moment, they really saw the fact of the rise of Chunyang Palace, not just hope. More than 100 Yuanying stage masters, plus thousands of peak Jidan stage masters. Such a force, even the 5 major sects could not ignore it. With this group of masters, Chunyang Palace was no longer the kind of small sect that would be destroyed by others. 3 Deshang stage masters, more than 100 Yuanying stage masters, thousands of peak Jidan stage disciples, plus other disciples in the Jidan stage, were enough to exceed 5,000. Just this force above the Jidan stage had already made countless second-rate sects look up to them, not to mention hundreds of thousands of disciples in the Qi refining stage. From this moment on, Chunyang Palace had taken a solid step towards becoming a first-class sect. All of this was based on one person, that was Yang Chun. For Yang Chun, the young palace master, the original high-level officials of Chunyang Palace could no longer express their satisfaction and relief in words. Of course, they also heard that when Yang Chun wanted to join the Taishaman, he was thrown out. They only felt that recruiting Yang Chun that year was absolutely the right thing to do. However, all the elders were also in a cold sweat. Of course, when Yang Chun wanted to join Chunyang Palace, Chu Heng made things difficult for him. Fortunately, at that time, Yang Chun fought against the disciple in the 3rd level of Qi refining who had died. Otherwise, Chunyang Palace would have missed such a talented young palace master. The progress here was so gratifying, but Chunyang Palace was also under a lot of pressure. It was time to let Yang Chun go back. It just so happened that Yang Chun could bring these hundreds of Yuanying stage monster cultivators back to Chunyang Palace, which could be regarded as a real disciple. And Yang Chun just went back to complete the commission of the Green Jade Immortal Island and opened another furnace of questioning inner heart pills for them, which was something that Yang Chun had promised before. Chapter 877. In fact, those questioning inner heart pills had already been refined by Yang Chun, but in order not to let others have doubts or have any other actions, Yang Chun must make a posture of alchemy. Of course, in this so-called alchemy process, what Yang Chun wanted to do, that was Yang Chen's own business. In fact, what happened on the side of Chunyang Palace, because the body of the old tree demon was there, Yang Chun was also clear. The reason why the master of the palace left the Taishaman hanging for so many years was also Yang Chen's intention. Over the years, the number of Li Heng's attacks has slowly increased, from once a year to almost 1 in 2 months, basically giving people the feeling that all the previous efforts have been wasted, and he has returned to his original level. The high-level officials of Taishaman couldn't do anything about this. They couldn't refine the spirit congealing pills themselves. They could only watch Li Heng become like that again. If Yang Chun didn't come back, they couldn't rush to the monster race's territory to find Yang Chun. That was not asking Yang Chun to come back, but taking the initiative to stretch out a big bamboo stick for Yang Chun to knock at will. This mysterious connection between the old tree demon's body and his clone also made Yang Chun very interested. Sometimes Yang Chun was also thinking about whether it was possible to split the spiritual awareness earlier to achieve the same effect. This was a later story. Let's not mention it for the time being. Yang Chun was now on the way back to Chunyang Palace with a group of Yuanying stage masters. Because of the large number of people, the shuttle definitely couldn't put them down. Fortunately, with Gong Sunling, the building ship carried all the people, and the speed was not slow. Gong Sunling had gained great benefits this time. Not to mention the geographical filling in the Mountain River geographical map. Just a master of the Deshang stage was collected by her into the Mountain River geographical map, which was a great thing. With the first city lord, as long as he recovered from his injury in a short period of time, Gong Sunling could have one more master of the Deshang stage to help refine the Mountain River geographical map, and the efficiency could almost double that of the hundreds of Yuanying stage masters inside. At this rate, in a few years, Gong Sunling could become the first person among Yang Chun and his wives to temper their life source magic weapons. The plan for Li Liheng and the Taishaman still needed a long time to operate. At least within 50 years, it could be gradually started. At that time, it was also the beginning of the Taishaman from the peak to the extinction. This time, in addition to giving an explanation to the Green Jade Immortal Island, he would also go to the wedding. This was a major event for Yang Chun. He could not be sloppy. The head of the palace had been preparing for many years, only waiting for the moment when Yang Chun nodded. Of course, the greatest heaven sect would not let it go. If they didn't knock something out, they would be sorry for the hardships of their previous lives. These things that he had extorted could be treated as interest. The things left by the first city lord had been carefully sorted out by Wang Yong and Gue Shanyu, Ho Yun. Basically, it was a complete set of monster race cultivation methods, and then a lot of resources. This time, because it was the sect, the other apprentice in Yang Chen's mind was about to be born. After finishing these things, he would accept the apprentice. The things left by the first city lord had been carefully sorted out by Wang Yong and Gue Shanyu, Ho Yun. Basically, it was a complete set of monster race cultivation methods, and then a lot of resources. What did Yang Chun and the others need? They could pick it out first. The monster race inheritance of these things should also be left here. After absorbing the masters, the rest of the monster race could not be considered for the time being. They could all be absorbed into the Chunyang Palace and temporarily maintain the status quo. Anyway, no one else knew that Ho Yun, the city lord, was a person from the Chunyang Palace, so he could do whatever he wanted here. On the way back, a year had passed. With the cover of the sea Jasper Cup, no one could know who was in the ship. Hundreds of monster race Yuanying stage masters, except for themselves and the high-level members of the Chunyang Palace. Other sect members did not know that Chunyang Palace had such a group of forces. Wang Yong, the master ancestor, came back with them. Ho Yun stayed in the Banyan Tree Immortal's cave to help the old tree demon control the situation. Chunyang Palace also sent 3 elders to the Banyan Tree Immortal's cave to take over the large number of monster race. Because of the particularity of collecting the first wood true essence in the Banyan Tree Immortal's cave, it would become the cultivation holy land that the cultivators would attribute spirit roots dreamed of. Of course, it was limited to the inside of the Chunyang Palace, and they were only trusted core disciples. With the master ancestor Wang Yong sitting all the way and the greetings of the major sect members, almost no one encountered anything, and they returned to the Chunyang Palace smoothly. Hundreds of Yuanying stage monster race worshipped the ancestors, and the ancestral hall of the Chunyang Palace was unprecedentedly lively and high profile. Of course, this kind of hidden power could not appear in front of the world for the time being. It had to be gradually known in batches and stages, so as not to cause some unnecessary trouble. The Yuanying stage monster race who had worshipped the ancestors were all sent to the Blue Vault Mountain Immortal's cave. The spiritual power and the complete monster race cultivation method inheritance in the Immortal's cave made these Yuanying stage monster race overjoyed. Even in the Banyan Tree Immortal's cave, they had not received such a complete cultivation inheritance. They needed a lot of resources to exchange with the first city lord and the second city lord. Many people didn't even know that there were so many advanced cultivation methods. How could they not be ecstatic? Whether it was these cultivation methods or inheritance, they could be exchanged with the sect's contribution to the sect. Although they still had to pay a small price, It was much better than in the banyan tree Immortal's cave. As long as they had the intention, it was not a big problem to get their own suitable cultivation method inheritance in a short period of 10 or 20 years. The Immortal's cave and inheritance made the new disciples of the Hall of Eccentrics recognize the Chunyang Palace. The atmosphere was peaceful, and no one was dissatisfied because they were coerced into joining the Chunyang Palace. Everyone was happy. Yang Chen's return was a secret, but the Taishaman seemed to have accurately found the traces of Yang Chen. 3 days after Yang Chen's return, Mao Qi appeared in the Chunyang Palace again, visited the head of the palace, and asked to see Yang Chen. Mao Qi came to the door so precisely, but it was also a subtle pressure on the Chunyang Palace. At least let the people in the Chunyang Palace know that the whereabouts of Yang Chen were known by the Taishaman. The courteous treatment of the Chunyang Palace and Yang Chen was because they had something to ask, but the Chunyang Palace must not think that the Taishaman were easy to provoke. This point may be related to the leak of the news of Mao Qi's visit. It was also a reminder to the people in the Chunyang Palace not to refuse the kindness of the Taishaman. In this regard, whether it was the head of the palace or Yang Chen, they did not care. Just got hundreds of yuanying stage masters. The head of the palace was in a good mood and did not care about Mao Qi. After a few words, he was sent to Yang Chen to receive. Anyway, the head of the palace knew that Yang Chen would definitely be able to get enough benefits from the Taishaman. Even if the Taishaman were more powerful, they reminded the Chunyang Palace and the vague threat. It could not change a fact. Now, it was the Taishaman who asked for help, and they must have the attitude and sincerity to ask for help. Chapter 878. Hall Master Mao, what can I do for you? Yang Chen politely took Mao Qi into the reception room. He was well-mannered along the way, and there was no excuse for people to be picky. But the more Mao Qi smiled bitterly in his heart. Yang Chen's etiquette was thorough, and he must have a knife to the bone when he opened his mouth to kill people. But there was no way. Now Mao Qi had to smile at this younger generation junior who wanted to kill him, and he had to let him make the conditions. This is the case. I won't hide it from the master. With the last experience, at least Mao Qi knows that it is very simple to tempt Yang Chen, as long as enough benefits are given. My sect also wants to order a batch of spirit congealing pills from the master. I wonder if the master can help. The greedy posture that Yang Chen showed last time was also an important reason why most of the senior officials in Taishaman have been tolerating Yang Chen to the present. In their eyes, since Yang Chen could be bought with some money, there was no need to fight to the death, and they could cooperate in this way. You must know that even Taishaman have to bear a lot of pressure to deal with a 5th-grade alchemist master. It was also an acceptable way to ease the relationship between the two sides in this way and to have limited cooperation. Spirit congealing pills? Yang Chen frowned directly. Last time this younger generation junior has prepared enough spirit congealing pills for the young sect master. Is there a problem after the young sect master ate it? Yang Chen smelled this question. Of course, Mao Qi couldn't answer it like this. If there is a problem with eating the spirit congealing pills, why do you have to come up and ask for pills? Everyone is smart. There is no need to do this kind of superfluous thing. I lost a batch because of poor care. Mao Qi could only use such a poor reason to dodge it. He couldn't directly tell Yang Chen that the elders of the medicinal hall wanted to study the spirit congealing pills, but they didn't study it, and it caused the young sect master's old illness to relapse, right? That is to say, after the young sect master ate it for a while, he stopped taking it. Yang Chen did not pursue how it was not well kept. Everyone had a tacit understanding that it would be inappropriate to say it. But Yang Chen still asked this question. Yes. Mao Qi hesitated for a moment and nodded. There was nothing to hide about this. The number of pills Yang Chen had given Li Heng was accurate, just enough to last Li Heng for 30 years. Since they had lost a batch, it was inevitable that Li Heng would run out of medicine. This is troublesome. Yang Chen's brows furrowed even tighter, and his tone was indescribably solemn. It was just a simple 3-word evaluation, but it gave Mao Qi a bad feeling. Although Mao Qi was not one of the core elders because he had to contact Yang Chen of the Chunyang Palace about this matter, Not only the sect master, but also the two Deshang stage elders and several core elders, all of them solemnly said to him that the young sect master Li Liheng's matter was the first important thing. Even if it was the questioning inner heart pill, it had to be ranked after the spirit congealing pill. Now Yang Chen's words made Mao Qi's heart sink, and he hurriedly asked, "Master, what kind of trouble? Once the medicine is cut off, all the previous efforts will be wasted." Yang Chen shook his head very slowly and spoke very slowly, but the meaning contained in it made Mao Qi more and more nervous. If you want to treat again, 30 years may not be enough. Hearing this, Mao Qi breathed a sigh of relief. It was just that if the time was to be extended, it was not a big problem. It was only a few decades. For a cultivator, it was only the time of 1 or 2 seclusion. Li Liheng was not one of those old guys who did not have enough life essence. He could afford to wait. "Please make a move, master." Mao Qi no longer delayed and directly stated his purpose. Taishaman will not treat the master badly. Oh, Yang Chen's eyes suddenly lit up. After staring at Mao Qi for a while, Mao Qi, the elder of the Yuanying stage, was a little nervous. Then he asked with a smile, "How do you want to treat him badly?" Yang Chen's question was too naked. Even Mao Qi, who knew that Yang Chen would want benefits, couldn't help but secretly spit in his heart. Why did he have to be so straightforward? However, Mao Qi still had to try his best to make Yang Chen satisfied. He immediately showed a smile and asked, "How about it according to the last rules? 2 good flying swords." "I already have a lot of flying swords." Yang Chen shook his head directly and rejected the proposal. "Then use fire seeds?" Mao Qi also knew that according to the original price tag, it would definitely not be able to impress Yang Chen, and immediately changed the way. "Yes." Yang Chen smiled and nodded. 2 kind of 6th-grade fire seeds deal." Hearing Yang Chen's words, Mao Qi almost fell to the ground. 2 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds. Are you kidding me? It was still a deal. Wasn't it too much to put the Taishaman in his eyes? Without waiting for Mao Qi to express his disapproval, Yang Chen had already spoken first. "Hall Master Mao, Senior Mao, it's not that this younger generation junior is asking for a big price. It's really forced by the situation. You also know that this younger generation junior promised to do alchemy for the Green Jade Immortal Island has passed. This younger generation junior rushed back this time to complete the commission of the Green Jade Immortal Island." Yang Chen's series of words made Mao Qi have to listen. I think Senior Mao also knows what price this younger generation junior will pay for alchemy for the Green Jade Immortal Island. Yang Chen understood that Mao Qi must be clear about the price paid by the Green Jade Immortal Island for alchemy this time. This was not a secret. Several major sects have the same price tag. Even if the Taishaman wanted to refine the questioning inner heart pill, it was estimated that they would pay the same price. Mao Qi nodded, indicating that he knew. In this regard, Yang Chen and the Chunyang Palace were still very kind. Although the price tag was high, it could also achieve a fair deal. This younger generation junior can refine pills for the Green Jade Immortal Island. I can get at least 1 kind of 6th-grade fire seed, and there are several kinds of 5th-grade fire seeds. Yang Chen, like enlightening Mao Qi, asked, "If the senior is this younger generation junior, will the senior delay the opportunity to get so many fire seeds for the sake of 2 flying swords?" "No," Mao Qi replied subconsciously. After answering, he felt that something was wrong, but the meaning that Yang Chen wanted to express was already very clear. Between earning 6th-grade fire seeds and more other grade fire seeds and earning 2 flying swords, anyone would know which one to choose. It was a very obvious truth. Even fools understood. Yang Chen, of course, had to earn fire seeds first and then see if he was in the mood. Then he would consider alchemy for the Taishaman. And it had to be in the case of a good price tag, otherwise there was no need to talk about it. Money and goods are worldly possessions. If the master helps, in addition to these things, the master can also gain the friendship of the Taishaman. Mao Qi couldn't help but be a little anxious. He said that he had to use some means to deal with other small sect, and the slightly threatening words came out directly. Chapter 879. The implication was that if Yang Chen did not help, he would not be able to get the friendship of the Taishaman, and maybe he would greatly offend the Taishaman. There was this kind of threatening posture in the words, which was also the consistent attitude of the Taishaman. In this case, Mao Qi was very used to it. In other words, this younger generation junior used to refine pills for the Taishaman. In fact, I didn't get the friendship of the Taishaman, right? Yang Chun didn't seem to hear the meaning of Mao Qi's words and asked with a smile. As soon as Mao Qi said the truth, he already knew that it was not good, and Yang Chen's question made him even more anxious. The dissatisfaction in it had been expressed very clearly. The last time he refined pills for the Taishaman, he had already given the Taishaman a lot of face. Now Mao Qi even used threatening means. Yang Chen certainly did not have a good temper. Although he was smiling when he spoke, he expressed a very serious dissatisfaction. If he didn't help this time, he couldn't get the friendship, so it meant that the last time was a waste. According to this logic, wouldn't it be a waste this time? If this was the case, then he had to consider whether to help the Taishaman with alchemy. Master, I didn't mean that. Mao Qi, a dignified Yuanying stage elder, the head of the Foreign Affairs Hall of the Taishaman, the largest sect of the Dao sects at this moment, he had to call himself in front of Yang Chun. I just want the master help. I have no other intention. That is to say, this younger generation junior has to take the risk of breaking the promise of the Green Jade Immortal Island and help the senior alchemy first? Yang Chun didn't give in and continued to ask, or the senior will go and talk to the Green Jade Immortal Island yourself. Mao Qi didn't know what to say. Even if it was the Taishaman, they didn't dare to say this so blatantly to the Green Jade Immortal Island. The last time he slapped himself in front of the Lord of Tantai, he still remembered it clearly. How dare he offend the Green Jade Immortal Island again? I actually just wanted to say that Grandmaster's price tag is too high. Mao Qi finally found the meaning he wanted to express and hurriedly said it. Junior understands. Yang Chun smiled and said in a very reasonable manner, but there's no reason for this junior to give up on the more valuable fire seed and insist on helping senior concoct pills, right? Although the fire seed is good, you don't only need one for your cultivation. Mao Qi finally found a breakthrough and patiently said, asking for so much is just collecting a little more, and it will be a crime to have a treasure. Could it be that our sect has a top-notch Immortal's Cave? It's an excellent place for cultivation. How about I give it to you? I'm not interested in the cave abode. Yang Chun shook his head directly. A 10,000-year-old elixir. I believe Grandmaster will like it, right? Mao Qi immediately changed to something else. As an alchemist, Yang Chun should not reject elixirs, right? Sure. Yang Chun nodded and then said, very casually, then just give me a few hundred kinds. This junior will see if I can refine some new medicinal pills. Mao Qi almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Such a precious thing as a 10,000-year-old elixir. He asked for a few hundred kinds. Yang Chun, you really dare to ask for it. Even if you're a Taishaman, it is impossible to take so many elixirs to exchange for other people's alchemy, right? No. Yang Chun knew the result when he saw Mao Qi's expression. He was not annoyed. He was very calm and said, if that's the case, then the business is not done. Senior Mao, if there's a chance, let's cooperate next time. Serving tea meant that he wanted to see the guest off. Mao Qi certainly understood this truth. But the problem was that his purpose of coming to Chunyang Palace has not been achieved. How could he leave? But Yang Chun had already stood up and made a gesture of invitation. Even if Mao Qi was thick-skinned, he could not sit still and be shameless. He could only get up resentfully. He wanted to put on a fierce face to Yang Chun, but when he remembered that he still had to ask for Yang Chen's name, he could not help but be discouraged. He could only bow and leave dejectedly. This time, the price tag could not be negotiated. In fact, it was also expected. Yang Chun was by no means a fool. For the second time, he asked for the same medicinal pill. If it was him, he would also ask for an exorbitant price. Who asked him to come to him again? It was just that the Taishaman had not suffered this kind of vexation for a long time, so Mao Qi was not used to it. Watching Mao Qi leave, the smile on Yang Chen's face slowly subsided. He snorted slightly and did not say much. He went straight to the head of the palace. Everything that happened here should be known by the head of the palace as soon as possible, so that he could arrange the strategy for receiving Mao Qi in the future. It was not that he wanted to fight with the Taishaman now. Everyone understood that it was just that the price tag could not be negotiated. The Taishaman sent themselves to the door. If they did not knock on the door, they would be sorry for the Taishaman who took the initiative to extend their hands. Presumably, the Taishaman also understood this truth. Mauchi simply said goodbye to the head of the palace and set foot on the way back. It was estimated that he would soon discuss with the sect and come to negotiate again. However, Yang Chun did not give him the opportunity to come to the door to talk. This time, he came back with two pretexts. One was to refine pills for the Green Jade Immortal Island, and the other was to get married. The marriage was naturally managed by the sect. Yang Chun himself, together with his master and sister, retreated again. The sect and the Blue Cloud sect of the Green Jade Immortal Island had set the date of Yang Chen's marriage, which was an auspicious day 10 years later. It was all decided by the elders of the sect. Whether it was Yang Chun or Gao Yu, Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, Sun Qingxue, they had no right to refuse. The sect had decided to hold a big celebration, which was a rare festive scene in recent years. The Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect did not refuse. Everyone knew the significance of the marriage of these two female disciples and Yang Chun, and they vigorously cooperated. When the time came, the sect of both sides would personally send the two women to the sedan chair and send them to the Chunyang Palace. To the outside, Yang Chen's retreat was to refine the questioning inner heart pill for the Green Jade Immortal Island. As for Yang Chen himself, he intended to use this time to first dry the Taishaman, and second to refine the Gui Shui flying sword and the Gradine and Yang 5 Elements flying sword for himself. The last time he refined pills for Li Liheng, Yang Chun got 2 good water attribute flying sword from the Taishaman, one for each of the 9th water and 10th water. In all fairness, these 2 flying swords were already of excellent quality, but for Yang Chun, it was not the best. At least for the Gui Shui flying sword, Yang Chun had a better choice. The complete flood dragon skeleton obtained in the Sea of No Return was the best material for refining the Gui Shui flying sword. The Taishaman's Gui Shui flying sword had become the foil of Yang Chen's brand new Gui Shui flying sword. It would be added to the flood dragon skeleton and become the ingredient of the flood dragon bone flying sword. What is this? When Yang Chun took out the complete flood dragon skeleton from the merit ring, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were both shocked, and Gao Yu asked directly. Chapter 880. The complete dragon skeleton was long, and it was easy to see what kind of species it was. Such a long body was obviously a snake, and like the snake, there was no long horn on its head. But there was an aura similar to the dragon horn and the mountain river geographical map in the bones. Thinking of the 2 dragon horns that Yang Chun found for Gao Yu, Gong Sunling's dragon skin scroll, and the dragon palace where they were in retreat, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling had a feeling of awareness of the truth. Could this be the skeleton of the dragon clan? It's not a real dragon, it's just a flood dragon. Yang Chun knew what they were thinking from the expressions of the 2 women, and explained with a smile. However, Yang Chen's plain tone really made the 2 women want to beat him with their fists. What did he mean by just a flood dragon? In this mortal world, not to mention the flood dragon, even the ordinary things with the dragon bloodline have been extinct, okay? According to reason, since the 2 women have seen the dragon horn, seen the mountain river geographical map, and seen the dragon palace, they should not make a fuss about this trivial flood dragon skeleton. But the fact was that the 2 women could not treat it indifferently in any case, and they were still surprised. Yang Chen's explanation also made the 2 women finally understand what it was. Gao Yu felt a little strange at the beginning. Although the skeleton was complete, the dragon horns were not as strong as the 2 in her hands. Hearing that it was a flood dragon, it became reasonable and natural. Are you going to refine a flying sword? Gao Yu asked carefully. Such a complete flood dragon skeleton, is it used to make medicine? That would be a pity. As a master of refining, she naturally wanted to show her skills. Of course, Yang Chen replied with a smile. Please give me more advice, master. This call a master made Gao Yu blush a little, especially in front of Gong Sunling. Yang Chun had never changed this form of address, which made Gao Yu have a feeling of seniority confusion. However, in the face of this almost peak refining material, Gao Yu also quickly calmed down, carefully observed and groped the dragon skeleton, understanding the attributes and characteristics of this skeleton, and began to think about what method she would use if she were to refine it. Gao Yu couldn't help but think of something else. Yang Chun wanted to use the flood dragon's bones to refine the flying sword. However, he originally had a better dragon's horn, but he gave it to her, and Yang Chun himself wanted to use the inferior flood dragon's bones. How could Gao Yu not be touched by his affection? Also, why would Yang Chun refine the dragon bone flying sword at this time? This was also a problem that made Gao Yu very confused, but she immediately understood. Yang Chun was giving her a great opportunity. Although the flood dragon was not a real dragon, it was also a dragon. When it was refined, it was still similar to the dragon's horn. If she could take advantage of Yang Chen's opportunity to refine the flood dragon bone flying sword, she might be able to accumulate a lot of experience in refining the dragon's horn flying sword. So far, Gao Yu has not started the refining of the dragon's horn flying sword. For so many years, she has been carrying out spiritual power, scouring, and spiritual awareness infiltration on the two dragon armors. Over the years, it has been quite effective, especially after the spiritual awareness double cultivation with Yang Chun some time ago. The process has been accelerated a lot after her spiritual awareness was upgraded to the peak Yuanying stage. She believed that it wouldn't take too long for her to start refining. At this time, Yang Chun took out the flood dragon's bones to refine the flying sword, and his thoughts could be said to be clear. It could be said that Yang Chun has been paying attention to her, and he has been thinking about her wholeheartedly. After Gao Yu understood this, there was a burst of warmth in her heart. She only felt that her whole body seemed to be floating in the clouds, and it was unspeakably smooth. That kind of happy feeling even made Gao Yu have an impulse to guide her whole body's spiritual power to a higher realm. The mood was comfortable, happy, warm, confident. All of these were the reasons for the improvement of her cultivation base. It seemed that at the moment when she understood Yang Chen's mind, Gao Yu's realm had changed again. It seemed to be close to the peak of the middle Jidan stage. Gong Sunling and Yang Chun certainly noticed the changes in Gao Yu. Yang Chun didn't say anything. He flicked a questioning inner heart pill into Gao Yu's mouth, and then hugged Gao Yu to cultivate the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra. Only then did he let go of Gao Yu and let her feel and comprehend it herself. Soon Gao Yu entered that kind of deep level of cultivation, and her spiritual power was also more and more agitated with her retreat and comprehension, and directly began to hit the bottleneck of the middle Jidan stage. Gong Sunling was envious, but she also knew that what she got was no worse than Gao Yu. There were already 3 Deshang stage masters in the Mountain River geographical map. 2 were sea beasts. 1 was the first city lord, and there were hundreds of Yuanying stage masters. So many powerful characters were indirectly refining the Mountain River geographical map for her. If it weren't for the fact that these people could only work hard in the Mountain River geographical map instead of sincerely surrendering, Gong Sunling could already compete with the current strength of Chunyang Palace by relying on this group of people. Of course, it was Chunyang Palace after removing Yang Chun. Such a powerful invisible force allowed Gong Sunling to almost not worry about the sacrificial refining of the Mountain River geographical map at all. She only needed to concentrate on the way of formation and spiritual power cultivation. In fact, Gong Sunling's spiritual power cultivation base had already reached the high-middle Jidan stage, but it had not yet reached the peak. But this was only a few years. With Gong Sunling's qualifications, she would definitely catch up with Gao Yu soon. Yang Chun took out the flood dragon bone for his own refining, and at the same time to give some reference to Gao Yu. Of course, he would not refine it when Gao Yu was in retreat and let Gao Yu miss it. However, this did not mean that Yang Chun could not do anything. He still had to carry out some preparatory work. After all, it was also a flood dragon bone, and it was a flood dragon bone with stunning strength. There was no broken strong thing in the Dragon Palace. Even if it was refining, it was not so easy. It was exactly the same as what Gao Yu had to do in the early stage of refining the dragon horn flying sword. Yang Chun had to use his spiritual power and spiritual awareness to crazily scour the flood dragon bone with Yang Chen's own imprint. From the planning of Yang Chen's great Yin Yang 5 elements flying sword to the present, this flood dragon bone was the strongest material that Yang Chun had encountered. The first wood Penglai Divine wood flying sword, the second wood Blood Phantom Vine flying sword, the third Fire Bright Light sword, the fourth Fire Sword Embryo, the fifth Earth Ming Guangruo's Living Soil flying sword, the seventh gold Immortal beheading knife. In terms of these materials, perhaps only the Penglai Divine wood and Living Soil could be comparable to the Flood Dragon Bone, but they were not as strong as the Flood Dragon Bone. In the environment of the Dragon Palace, it could still be preserved well, which had fully explained a lot of problems. What Yang Chun had to do now was to first use his spiritual power and spiritual awareness to go deep into the Flood Dragon Bone. Chapter 881. For Yang Chen's current spiritual awareness, this was not a very difficult process. The spiritual awareness of the human immortal first grade had already surpassed all objects in the mortal world, and it was only a few days of work to imprint the spiritual awareness. But this had already explained the strength of the Flood Dragon skeleton. If it was replaced by the spiritual awareness of the peak Yuanying stage like Gao Yu, it would take at least a few years. The spiritual power scouring was relatively difficult, but under Yang Chen's great Yin and Yang 5-element spirit power, under the promotion and tempering of each other, this process did not take too long for Yang Chen. Compared with Gao Yu's decades of painstaking work, Yang Chen only took less than a year to complete this process. Of course, the reason why the Flood Dragon skeleton was not as good as the quality of the Dragon Horn, Yang Chen's cultivation base, was also an important key. Gao Yu only retreated for about 10 months and completed her cultivation. This retreat allowed Gao Yu to completely break through the bottleneck of the middle Jidan stage and enter the late Jidan stage. Her spiritual power cultivation base caught up with Yang Chen's. Gao Yu, who had completed her retreat, had been watching Yang Chen's technique. Although Yang Chen had almost never shown his superb refining technique in front of Gao Yu, the only time was the first wood flying sword, which was not so superb, but Gao Yu seemed to have a feeling that Yang Chen would definitely be able to refine this flying sword. Yang Chen had always shown that he was a master of alchemy, and no one would doubt this. But Gao Yu believed that Yang Chen also had superb refining techniques. Even Gao Yu herself did not know why she had such a feeling and why she trusted Yang Chen so much. From his point of view, Gao Yu was very ashamed. As a master, not to mention that she did not give guidance to Yang Chen in terms of spiritual power cultivation base, she even asked Yang Chen to give guidance. As a master of refining with a small reputation in the pure Yang Palace, Gao Yu did not point out any of the content of refining to Yang Chen. Fortunately, whether it was Gao Yu or Gong Sun Ling, they did not regard their future husband as an ordinary person. It was already a jaw-dropping miracle to be able to become a 5th-grade alchemist master in the mortal world. It was believed that at this time, even if Yang Chen suddenly became a master of refining, everyone would not be surprised at all. Yang Chen did not let the two women down. After completing the preparatory work, Yang Chen began the refining process. Like the refining method of the first wood flying sword, he first had to enter the secret technique to slowly refine the body from hundreds of feet long, and then he could start further refining. The method of condensing the secret technique, Yang Chen did it very clearly, and even the essentials of how to condense the secret technique were explained one by one. Every time he condensed it very seriously and hit it on the Flood Dragon skeleton, Gao Yu stared intently and listened to Yang Chen's explanation. Although she did not need much of this process in the future, because the length of the dragon's horn was not very long, it also needed a little refining, and it was also useful. Every time the secret technique was injected into the Flood Dragon skeleton, the length of the Flood Dragon skeleton was shortened a little. The completion of each secret technique almost took Yang Chen at least half a day. Later, as the length of the Flood Dragon skeleton became shorter and shorter, the process became more and more difficult. By the time the hundreds of feet long Flood Dragon skeleton was reduced to less than 1 foot, 3 years had passed. In addition to the 1 year of retreat that Gao Yu took at the beginning, it had been 4 years. To this point, it was a critical moment. At this point, the water flying sword given by the Taishaman and some flying swords with compatible attributes obtained by Yang Chun from other places came in handy. The top flying sword that countless people could fight for was directly turned into liquid by Yang Chun with the Yin-Yang Heaven Burning Fire, and then added to the Flood Dragon skeleton. There was no hesitation in this process, as if the smelted flying sword was just an ordinary product. If the owner of the flying sword who refined it saw it, he would definitely scold Yang Chun. Such a reckless waste of natural resources should be punished by heaven. However, the two women present, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, did not feel this way at all. Everything was so natural. In front of this Flood Dragon skeleton, the so-called top flying sword should be a foil. It should be just an ingredient. They believed that if the smelted flying sword had a spirit, it would not feel wronged. The last step was the most critical. Yang Chun did it the slowest and explained it in the most detailed way. Many of the contents and techniques were understood and known by Gao Yu. They were all introduced in detail in the secret books of the Chunyang Palace and the Taishaman. But under the amazing precision of Yang Chun, these seemingly ordinary refining techniques bloomed the most brilliant light. Just like a top master of boxing, it seemed that all the moves in his hands had reached the state of returning to the original state. There was no need for any advanced fancy things to attract attention. Each move was the most ordinary, but it could best reflect the profound meaning of the boxing, and, at the same time, it was also the move that exerted the greatest power. Yang Chen's refining technique was the same. Every technique, Gao Yu would do it, but such a combination, such accuracy, and at the same time, it was necessary to take into account the balance of all aspects of the material. There were no omissions in every aspect, and every corner was taken care of. Gao Yu was a person who knew what was good and what was bad. Naturally, she could see the meaning contained in this. For her, this was simply a perfect demonstration operation, which provided the best reference for her to refine the dragon horn flying sword in the future. With this experience, the success rate of refining the dragon horn flying sword could exceed 90%. The final process took another year. Seeing that the Flood Dragon Bone flying sword had begun to take shape slowly, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling's emotions also changed from the beginning to admiration, to calmness, and finally to the joy of success. The slender Flood Dragon Bone flying sword almost maintained the original complete shape of the Flood Dragon Bone. Even the flying sword was not straight, but slightly curved along both sides of the central axis, like a small snake winding forward. The skull of the Flood Dragon became the tip of the sword, and the tail part was slightly circled, becoming a natural hilt. The flying sword was placed there like a long Flood Dragon that would pounce out at any time, but it was countless times smaller, only 6 feet long. At the same time, it was not a complete Flood Dragon, but a skeleton without flesh and blood. This was the most complete preparation that Yang Chun had made for refining the flying sword so far. All kinds of ingredients were added at one time, unlike the previous flying swords, which were first created and then slowly perfected. This water-attributed dragon horn flying sword was a finished flying sword that was formed in one go. Chapter 882. After the initial refining, Yang Chun held the Flood Dragon Bone flying sword in his hand, and with a move of his mind, the enlarged Flood Dragon Bone flying sword appeared in his sea of consciousness. Every part of the Flood Dragon Bone flying sword was magnified tens of thousands of times, so that Yang Chun could observe it clearly. Whether there was any deviation in the shape of the flying sword, and whether there was any defect in the interior, it was clearly shown in Yang Chen's abnormal sea of consciousness. It must be said that after his spiritual awareness entered the human immortal first grade, refining the magic weapon of the mortal world was not too difficult for Yang Chen. If there was a defect, it was that Yang Chen's spiritual power was not strong enough to deal with some of the deepest details. However, even so, the Flood Dragon Bone flying sword was much more perfect than many of the so-called best magic weapons in the world. There was no way to avoid flaws. Even in the spiritual world and the immortal world, there was no perfect magic weapon. The things refined in the Taishang Laojuan's 8 trigrams furnace also had such subtle defects. At least in terms of Yang Chen's current cultivation base, this flying sword had already sat to the extreme that he could do, even if there were flaws, it was not something that could be solved now. After seeing this result, Yang Chen took a long breath, took out the Flood Dragon Bone flying sword from his sea of consciousness, and then handed it over to Gao Yu, who had been waiting anxiously. Gao Yu cared even more about the quality of this flying sword than Yang Chen. In her eyes, Yang Chen would rather give up the dragon horn, a heavenly material and earthly treasure, to give it to her, but he himself chose the inferior material. If there was a mistake in the refining, Gao Yu would never forgive herself. After taking the flying sword, Gao Yu explored it up and down, inside and outside. After a long time, she relaxed like Yang Chen and breathed a sigh of relief. The quality of the Flood Dragon Bone flying sword was not inferior to Wang Yang's Qilin Horn flying sword. It was just that the Qilin Horn flying sword was a dual water and fire attribute, while the Flood Dragon Bone flying sword was only a water attribute. At least in Gao Yu's eyes, this Flood Dragon Bone flying sword had no flaws at all. It was almost the most perfect flying sword she had ever seen. Only a flying sword of this quality could relieve some of the guilt in Gao Yu's heart. Yang Chen was indeed a master of refining. This was fully demonstrated by the Dragon Bone flying sword. Not only was he an expert, but he was also an expert who had returned to his natural state. Gao Yu didn't see anything special or difficult in Yang Chen's technique. It was the most basic refining technique that Gao Yu was familiar with. However, by relying on these most basic refining techniques, Yang Chen actually refined this Dragon Bone flying sword so perfectly, which was simply amazing. Gao Yu was also a master of refining. From this series of processes of Yang Chen, she once again gained a lot of valuable experience. Yang Chen's technique was basic, but there were two things that were different from ordinary people. One was accuracy, whether it was the control of spiritual power or the position of refining. It was almost accurate to the slightest or even more subtle parts. Whether it was refining or doing other things, it was the same. Too much was as bad as not enough. Just the fact that it was so precise was enough to make countless master craftsmen blush with shame. The second was the connection of basic techniques. Any exquisite move was formed by the combination of basic techniques. Yang Chen used these most basic techniques to refine the most perfect flying sword in the most suitable order. These 2 points seemed to be very simple, but everyone who had tried it knew the difficulty. Without accurate control of their own spiritual power and techniques, without a clear understanding of the materials, without a clear understanding of the overall process, it was absolutely impossible to achieve such a well-thought-out plan and succeed in one try. This also made Gao Yu begin to re-examine the importance of basic skills. Yang Chen never preached anything to her, but used his own refining process to make a perfect demonstration for Gao Yu. At the same time, it was also an indirect way to tell her what kind of method to use when Gao Yu wanted to refine the Dragon Horn flying sword in the future. Even Gong Sunling, who was not in the direction of refining, had gained a lot, not to mention Gao Yu, who was originally a master of refining. Basically, after watching Yang Chen refine the Dragon Bone flying sword, Gao Yu once again began to retreat without hesitation. Of course, it was after Yang Chen, and she cultivated the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra once, and took the questioning inner heart pill. Gao Yu was in retreat here, and Yang Chen couldn't go out alone. After all, the three of them were in the Dragon Palace, and the Dragon Palace was not suitable for others to see for the time being, so Yang Chen and Gong Sunling were also guarding while waiting. Taking this opportunity, Yang Chen opened another furnace of questioning inner heart pills. The profound spirit furnace has been strong to a certain extent, plus Yang Chen's human immortal first-grade spiritual awareness, basically refining the mortal world's medicinal pills. There would be no possibility of failure. A furnace of questioning inner heart pills directly produced dozens of second-grade medicinal pills. This was still the result of Yang Chen's fear that it would be too long, and he did not carry out the second-grade refining. In a blink of an eye, it was another half a year, and Gao Yu finally finished her retreat. For the path of refining, she had more understanding. In just a few years, she had 2 consecutive retreats, and Gao Yu's harvest was simply unparalleled. And all of this was thanks to Yang Chun. When Yang Chun came out, the happiest people were the people of the Green Jade Immortal Island. This retreat was nominally to refine the questioning inner heart pills for the Green Jade Immortal Island. Therefore, after meeting with Yang Chun, the master of the palace handed over the already prepared batch of questioning inner heart pills to the people of the Green Jade Immortal Island. After getting the questioning inner heart pills, the people of the Green Jade Immortal Island were almost overjoyed. This batch of questioning inner heart pills, although there were only more than 30 pills, half of them were indeed second grade. The first grade questioning inner heart pills had already been used by several Deshang stage masters. What effect would the second grade questioning inner heart pills have? The Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect already had a few second grade questioning inner heart pills on hand, but neither the 2 major sect was willing to use them. Now that they had gotten so much, there would be more Deshang stage masters in the sect. The Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect could be ranked among the major sect, and they were able to compete with the Profound Heaven sect in the immortal world. Of course, they had many masters. Over the years, there have been countless people trapped in the realm of the peak Yuanying stage. This batch of questioning inner heart pills was enough to make the strength of the Green Jade Immortal Island qualitatively change. Even the Taishamen, it was estimated that they had to reconsider their relationship with the Green Jade Immortal Island. Equally happy was the Blue Cloud sect. Giving the Green Jade Immortal Island so many second-grade questioning inner heart pills also meant that Yang Chen's current refining techniques were becoming more and more proficient, and he had more and more experience in refining the questioning inner heart pills. The next one was the Blue Cloud sect. Although it would take more than 20 years, if a mere 25 years could be exchanged for more than 22nd-grade questioning inner heart pills, it was definitely worth it. Especially with the relationship with Sun Qingxue, Yang Chun would definitely work hard to refine for the Blue Cloud sect and would not favor one over the other. Chapter 883. Of course, the 5 Elements sect and the Qingquan sect, which were ranked at the back, also deserved to be happy. Today, the Green Jade Immortal Island was there tomorrow. Using some external objects to exchange for dozens of Deshang stage masters, this was definitely the most commendable part of this transaction. The other rogue cultivators who had been waiting in line were equally happy. What everyone asked for was just a questioning inner heart pill. Now it was possible to get the second-grade questioning inner heart pill. How could it not make people ecstatic? If someone were to touch Yang Chun at this time, it would definitely be a blatant provocation to the sect and the numerous rogue cultivators. If anyone wanted to die faster, feel free to give it a try. Even the powerful Taishamen would not dare to take the risk of universal condemnation. Speaking of Taishamen, Mao Qi was now in a difficult position. The last time he failed to reach an agreement with Yang Chun, he was scolded by the Taishamen's higher-ups. Although Yang Chun was demanding an exorbitant price, Mao Qi actually did not have a long-term vision in this regard, which made the sect master and several core executives very dissatisfied. Of course, strictly speaking, it was not Mao Qi's fault. Mao Qi did not know how importantly Li Heng was to the Taishamen, because the sect master and the others did not tell Mao Qi the real secret. In Mao Qi's heart, there was a trace of speculation that Li Heng was the sect master's illegitimate child. Therefore, in his heart, he did not raise Li Heng's status very high. Naturally, when Yang Chun extorted him, Courtmaster Mao felt that it was not worth it, and both parties parted on bad terms. In the eyes of the Taishamen's higher-ups, if they could solve Li Heng's problem once and for all, it would be worth it no matter what price they had to pay. Not to mention that it was just 2 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds. Even if it was a 7th-grade fire seed, it was worth it. If Li Heng communicated with the predecessors of the spiritual world and immortal world, what questioning inner heart pill, what inner sensing pill, couldn't the predecessors of the spiritual world give some advice? At that time, the Taishamen could refine it by themselves. Why did they have to care about the attitude of Yang, Chun, and Chunyang Palace? Such a prospect, compared with 2 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds, does not know where to go. In the end, Mao Qi actually rejected them. How could the higher-ups not be annoyed? It wouldn't be too troublesome if they could go back and discuss it on the spot. But after Mao Qi left, Yang Chun began to refine pills in seclusion, and once he refined pills, it took him 5.5 years. Even if the Taishamen wanted to agree, they couldn't find anyone. The palace master of the Chunyang Palace pushed the matter aside and only said that Yang Chun had to decide, which made the Taishamen even more angry. It was not easy for Yang Chun to come out, but he immediately brought big news. Not to mention that there were so many questioning inner heart pills. Half of them were second grade. The Green Jade Immortal Island originally had a batch. Now with this batch, their strength would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. At that time, maybe the status of the Taishamen Dao sects as the #1 sect would be threatened. Now the Taishamen are a little hesitant. Should they ask Yang Chun for the questioning inner heart pill or the spirit congealing pill? After all, the effect of the questioning inner heart pill was very significant. In a short period of time, a large number of Deshang stage masters could be added, which was also a guarantee for the status of the sect. But in the long run, the spirit congealing pill was better. The benefits of being able to communicate with the predecessors of the spiritual world and the immortal world were naturally needless to say. But the problem was that Yang Chun has made it clear that this time it would take a longer time. It may take 50 years for Li Liheng to recover. After 50 years, even if Li Liheng was cured, it was unknown how long it would take to communicate with the predecessors. This contradictory mood made the Taishamen's high-level officials very uncomfortable. Of course, the most uncomfortable thing was that their own life gate was pinched in the hands of their enemy, Yang Chun. Humbly begging a younger generation junior, or the culprit who killed their own 6 Yuanying stage masters. This feeling was not uncomfortable. But now they had to fight for the initiative no matter what price they had to pay. Because the news had already come out, since Yang Chun was able to make 2 moves for the Taishamen, it was not counted in the promise to the outside world. Other sect naturally had thoughts. After all, wasn't it just to pay extra benefits? Good things were not only in Taishamen, the Green Jade Immortal Island, the Blue Cloud sect, the 5 Elements sect, the Chinquin sect, which one of them was not bad in the mortal world, they could come up with enough price tags. Now, several major sects have sent special envoys to contact Chunyang Palace, hoping to let Yang Chun take action and refine some additional medicinal pills. It wasn't just the big sections. Even some of the smaller sects were getting restless. There was even a small sect that planned to use a beautiful and unparalleled female disciple as the price. The news of Yang Chun marrying for beautiful wives at the same time was not concealed from others. Some people immediately guessed that Yang Chun was a lecherous person. The small sect couldn't come up with enough benefits, but there were always 1 or 2 beautiful female disciples. Maybe Yang Chun would like them. So many people were planning to take action. If the Taishamen still hesitated, when it was their turn, they didn't know how many years it would take. The Taishamen couldn't tolerate this kind of thing happening. Hall Master Mao hurriedly came to the door again. This time, after the sect master made him swear by his heart demon, he told him the truth about Li Liheng's cultivation method. At the same time, he also explained that Li Liheng had met with a predecessor in the spiritual world twice during the period of taking Yang Chen's spirit congealing pills and briefly passed through. After understanding all this, Hall Master Mao Qi finally understood what kind of mistake he had made and what kind of loss he had brought to the sect. Before setting off, Hall Master Mao Qi had already made up his mind. Anyway, with the authorization of the sect master and several core elders, he must achieve his goal at all costs. Other sect came to ask for pills. Yang Chun handed it over to the palace master to decide. Anyway, as long as it didn't delay Yang Chen's normal cultivation, Yang Chun didn't mind refining more medicinal pills to increase his experience. At the same time, these refined medicinal pills were the favor of Chunyang Palace, and also some of the help of Chunyang Palace in the future. But only the matters of the Taishamen, the sect would let Yang Chun decide. Last time, Yang Chun had already said to the palace master that he would make some arrangements for the Taishamen. In this regard, the sect unconditionally supported it. So, after Hall Master Mao Qi arrived at Chunyang Palace, he soon appeared in front of Yang Chun again. Master, The conditions you said last time, 2 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds in exchange for the spirit-congealing pills, we agreed. Mao Qi also liked to negotiate with Yang Chun. Although sometimes the conditions were harsh, everyone didn't have to beat around the bush. They could directly set the conditions and take the chips. It'd save a lot of trouble than those negotiations that needed to go around the bush. Senior Mao, that was the price 5 years ago. Yang Chun faced Mao Qi's sudden generosity and suddenly laughed out loud. Now is not the market at that time. Chapter 884. Mao Qi almost sprayed a mouthful of blood directly on Yang Chen's face. What does it mean that now is not the market at that time? To put it bluntly, it's just a trip or two. The price is different. At this moment, Mao Qi almost wanted to stand up and leave. Mao Qi wanted to ask Yang Chun, do you know who you are extorting? Do you know what it means when the Taishamen are angry? But Mao Qi did not ask. He knew that it was useless to ask. It was not that the Taishamen had never been angry. They sent 6 Yuanying stage masters to kill Yang Chun. As a result, the 6 Yuanying stage masters died instantly, and Yang Chun was now sitting in front of him and talking with confidence. Do it? Mao Qi didn't have this idea. Chunyang Palace would never allow Yang Chun to have an accident in their own sect. There was definitely the old tree demon, or Wang Yong, who was not far away. Once Mao Qi dared to have a bad intention, even if he was the master of the Foreign Affairs Hall of the Taishamen, it was estimated that he would still be killed. Senior Mao, it's not that I'm asking for too much. Yang Chen's hateful voice sounded at this time. I think Senior Mao also knows the price of this younger generation junior's alchemy for the Green Jade Immortal Island. Now, someone offers something higher than this price and asks this younger generation junior to make alchemy. It takes the same amount of time. On one side is a higher price than the Green Jade Immortal Island. On the other side is the price of Senior Mao. If it is changed to Senior yourself, which one will you choose? The same question was asked again, and Mao Qi didn't even know how to answer it. From the standpoint of the Taishamen, Mao Qi would of course firmly say that he would refine pills for the Taishamen first. But from the perspective of Yang Chun, of course, it was alchemy for other sections. Moreover, whether it was the Blue Cloud sect or the Five Elements sect, none of these sects were inferior to the Taishamen. Why should Yang Chun lower his status to cater to the Taishamen? Moreover, it was a sect that had once sent out experts to kill Yang Chun. Mao Qi was speechless and could only ask resentfully, "What's the price now?" Junior Sect Master, you need a lot more pills this time than last time. You won't be able to concoct them all in one furnace. Yang Chun smiled on his face and began to count his fingers for Mao Qi. Last time, it took 6 years for the spirit congealing pill. This time, it will take at least 10 years, enough for this junior to open 2 furnaces of questioning inner heart pills. What price does Senior Mao think we should offer? With twice the time, the implication was that at least twice the price of the questioning inner heart pill of the Green Jade Immortal Island was not something that could be solved by 2 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds. At this moment, Mao Qi wished he could slap himself in the face. If Yang Chun asked at that time, and he agreed directly, there would be no such thing. But now it was useless to regret. Yang Chen's value was indeed placed here. The price was clearly marked, and Mao Qi could not help but believe it. When he thought of the significance of Li Heng's young sect master to the sect, Mao Qi had to pinch his nose and recognize this account. He gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, twice the price of the Green Jade Immortal Island deal. After 10 years, this old man will come to get the spirit congealing pill." Slow down, slow down. Just as Mao Qi was about to get up and leave, Yang Chun called Mao Qi Senior Mao. You can't get the spirit congealing pill in 10 years. Are you playing with this old man? Mao Qi's eyebrows were raised on the spot. The first sentence just said that it would take 10 years, and the second sentence changed to not get it in 10 years. If it was anyone else, they would also get angry. Fortunately, Mao Qi has been in charge of the Foreign Affairs Hall for many years. He knew when he could get angry and when he must suppress it. Holding back his anger, Mao Qi stared at Yang Chun fiercely, waiting for his explanation. Senior is late. This younger generation junior has promised the Blue Cloud sect, after getting married, This younger generation junior will first make a furnace of questioning inner heart pills for the Blue Cloud sect. Yang Chan said with a smile, "This younger generation junior will get married in 4 years. After marriage, I will refine pills for the Blue Cloud sect for 5 years, plus the 10 years of spirit congealing pills. Senior should wait for 19 years to come back. First come, first served. Even if it was Taishaman, it was impossible to squeeze the Blue Cloud sect to the back. Not to mention that the strength of the Blue Cloud sect was not inferior to the Taishaman. Just the Blue Cloud sect's son, Qing Xue, and Yang Chun were about to become husband and wife. Yang Chun had no reason to abandon his relatives to please the Taishaman. There was also Yang Chen's marriage. Even if Mao Qi was anxious, he couldn't tell Yang Chun that his marriage was a trivial matter and it was not worth mentioning. It was more important for the Taishaman. If Mao Qi said this, it would not only offend Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace. You must know that the Blue Cloud sect and the Green Jade Immortal Island were going to marry their female disciples to Yang Chun. The last time he was reluctant to give up 2 kinds of 6-grade fire seeds, there was such a retribution immediately. Not only the price tag was increased several times, but the time was also directly delayed by more than 20 years. While Mao Qi was burning in his heart, he became more and more dissatisfied with the sect master and the core elders for not informing him about the young sect master in advance. Even if he agreed to Yang Chen's conditions in such a humble and humiliating manner and got the spirit congealing pill, this time the sect paid a heavy price. It was estimated that he had to bear the black pot. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Mao Qi suddenly didn't know what he should use to describe his mood at the moment. Remorse and hatred? Or was it anger? Senior Mao seems to be in a hurry. Yang Chen's voice reached Mao Qi's ears again. If this is the case, this junior has a solution. I wonder if Senior Mao is interested? Oh, what is it? When Mao Qi heard this, he suddenly had a feeling of a village at the end of the tunnel. I would like to hear the details. This junior has no time to refine it, but Senior can find someone else. Yang Chan said with a smile, this junior is interested in selling the pill recipe of this spirit congealing pill. I don't know if Senior is willing to buy it. What are you going to say? Mao Qi could hardly believe his ears and couldn't help but come up with a genteel word. This junior intends to sell the pill recipe of the spirit congealing pill. Are you interested in it? Yang Chen did not hesitate and asked again. You name your price. Hearing that Yang Chen was really willing to sell the pill recipe, Mao Qi's spirit was completely uplifted this time, and his face was also filled with a radiant look, no longer the kind of helplessness before. The voice of the speech was also loud and full of confidence. When Yang Chun saw that Mao Qi was so straightforward, he was secretly happy in his heart, but his face was reluctant. He said with some shyness, Senior Mao, this junior is willing to give Senior face for the sake of Senior sincerity several times. But this junior can't give it to Senior for no reason, so this price tag will be a little high. Senior should be aware of it. Chapter 885. The Spirit Congealing Pill and the Pill Recipe of the Spirit Congealing Pill. How to choose between the two? Even a fool would know. Yang Chen's move. One is to teach people to fish, the other is to teach people to fish. One is to treat the symptoms, the other is to treat the root cause. If Mao Qi is still hesitant on this issue, then he is not the foreign affairs hall master of Taishaman. As long as you give me a specific price. At this moment, Mao Qi had an indescribable performance of being rich. If he could get the pill recipe of the spirit congealing pill, even if this time he let Yang Chan knock him off, Mao Qi would accept it. Isn't it just some worldly possessions? The greatest heaven sect was rich and imposing. It was an unexpected confidence. With the pill recipe of the spirit congealing pill, Li Lihing's problem could be completely solved. Moreover, the spirit congealing pill was not only used by Li Liheng. Even other cultivators could use it. It could condense the spiritual awareness. It was a good thing. The most important point was that, with the pill recipe, Taishaman would no longer have to be controlled by others. The taste of coming to Yang Chan several times was not good. Mao Qi had tasted enough of that kind of discomfort. Mao Qi was naturally eager to solve it once and for all. A 7th grade fire seed. Yang Chen was not polite and directly offered his own price. He was lying on the chopping board. If he didn't cut a knife, he would be sorry to the rich Mao Chi home master opposite him. Even Mao Chi, who had already prepared to be slaughtered, couldn't help but take a breath after hearing the price of Yang Chen. Looking at Yang Chen, his eyes were full of disbelief. The pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill, you said in the past, isn't it just like this? A wry smile appeared on Mao Chi's face. He knew that Yang Chen would open his mouth, but he didn't expect this bite to be so big. Wasn't Yang Chen afraid that he couldn't swallow it? This younger generation, Junior, never sells the pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill. Only the pill recipe to harmonize the spirituality of the inner core. Yang Chen bit on this point. In the past, when the Xiang family falsely accused Yang Chen of stealing the Xiang family's pill formula, Yang Chen would never admit to it. Can this spirit-congealing pill compare to the heaven-seizing pill? However, Mao Chi did not care about this. In his mind, the pill formulas that Yang Chen wanted to sell were the pill formulas for the heaven-seizing pill. Although there were many people who had the recipe of the heaven-seizing pill, only Yang Chen had the pill recipe that could reconcile the inner core of the Deshang stage monster. Not only Mao Chi, but many people felt that the pill formula in Yang Chen's hands was the real heaven-seizing pill formula. That depends on whether it's useful or not. Yang Chen smiled and said, if it's not useful, then it's worthless. If it's useful, then it's priceless. If he needed it urgently, even the wealth of a nation would not be a problem. If Senior Mao is not in a hurry for the time being, then the price is still the same as before. Junior is not in a hurry. These words were exactly what Mao Chi was thinking. The spirit-congealing pill, to put it bluntly, was to condense spiritual awareness. This was originally a medicinal pill in the spiritual world, but for people in the mortal world, the effect was not necessarily good. Without the spiritual awareness of a human immortal or above, after taking the spirit-congealing pill, it was already good that the medicinal effect could be exerted for 100 times. However, under the arrangement of Yang Chen, Li Liheng now inevitably needed this kind of spirit-congealing pill. In particular, this spirit-congealing pill was also related to the spatial spiritual awareness cultivation method. Mao Chi had to be careful about it. Judging from a performance of Li Liheng's 2 spiritual awareness contacts with the senior, it was after taking the spirit-congealing pill. Everyone also knew that with Li Liheng's current cultivation base, it was impossible to do this. Even the senior who created this cultivation method was only able to do this when he was at the peak of the nascent soul realm. From this aspect, even if Li Liheng recovered in the future, if he wanted to make the spatial spiritual awareness cultivation method work in advance, he must have the help of the spirit-congealing pill. Otherwise, with Li Liheng's spiritual awareness cultivation posture, if he wanted to reach the peak yuanying stage, he didn't know if it would take hundreds or thousands of years. Yang Chen's words were clear: if you don't need it, you don't have to buy it. But when you want to use it, you have to come to Yang Chen again and again. He believed that after several times, the price paid was enough to exchange for a 7th grade fire seed. Now Yang Chen already has a 7th grade fire seed, which was the treasure of the Chunyang Palace, the pure Yang True Fire. However, Yang Chen firmly believed that Taishiman must have a 7th grade fire seed. If enough high-grade fire seeds could be collected in the mortal world, then Yang Chen's yin-yang heaven-burning fire would become more and more perfect after experiencing the heavenly tribulation. Whether to buy the pill recipe or not, Mao Chi was lost in thought. Yang Chen did not urge him, so he sat opposite him and slowly tasted it. Of course, this time it was not to serve tea, but to wait for Mao Chi to make a decision. This decision was quite difficult to make. A 7th grade fire seed to buy a pill recipe that was not worth so much in ordinary times, it was definitely Yang Chen waving a double-edged knife to kill people. But when he thought about it, if he asked Yang Chen again and again in the future, that feeling would never be better than now. The first was to cut off a large piece of meat with a sharp knife. The second was to cut the meat with a blunt knife. It was slow and painful. Adding up, it may cut more meat than the first kind. Weighing the two, it was really difficult to come to a conclusion. However, the last time he was scolded in the sect, Mao Qi quickly made a decision. There was no good fruit to eat indecisiveness. Maybe the price tag would be higher next time. Since he had already put on a posture of being willing to be killed, he simply let Yang Chun kill enough at once, and he would not give him a chance to kill people in the future. A 7th grade fire seed deal. Mao Qi's face was quite ugly as he said these words through gritted teeth. There was a kind of solemn and stirring expression on his face, as if the wind was bleak and the water was cold, and the hero would never return. This time, he would be able to be extorted in the future. In the future, he would no longer be angry with Yang Chun, the younger generation. Hall Master Mao is really decisive. This younger generation junior admires you. Yang Chun directly gave a thumbs up in front of Mao Qi. The pill recipe is ready-made. This younger generation junior will be in the sect, waiting for Hall Master Mao to exchange the fire seed. Mao Qi left this time. Shortly after he left, the figures of Wang Yong and the head of the palace appeared silently on Yang Chen's side. Just now, the head of the palace and Wang Yong understood what was said. Would it be inappropriate to give them the pill recipe? If they take the pill recipe, you will be in danger. The head of the palace was worried that the Taishaman would take the pill recipe and harm Yang Chun. So he asked worriedly, "Headmaster, please rest assured." Yang Chun replied with a smile. "Even if you take the pill recipe, you may not be able to refine the medicinal pill." Tampering with the pill recipe? The head of the palace was shocked and immediately shook his head. This is an excuse for the Taishaman to make a move. It's a real pill recipe. Yang Chun directly dispelled the worries of the head of the palace, but without the level of a 5th grade alchemist master. Even if I give him the pill recipe, they can only look at it. In the end, they still have to ask the disciple. Chapter 886. Yang Chen's answer made the palace master and the master ancestor stunned for a while. Then, after looking at each other, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. This time, the Taishaman were going to lose a lot. They paid a 7th grade fire seed to get the pill recipe, but they could only watch it and could not refine it. It was believed that after they knew this result, they would be distressed to the point of wanting to kill someone. However, even if they wanted to kill someone, they had to wait until Yang Chun helped them refine the medicinal pill. Was there such a thing that made the Taishaman feel more hateful when they had suffered a big loss and had to come to ask for help with a smiling face? Was there anything that could make the high-level members of the Chunyang Palace happier than this? The palace master and master ancestor Wang Yong couldn't help but laugh. Yang Chen's trick was too bad, and it was too satisfying. This was even more satisfying than killing the few of them. How are you going to deal with the Taishaman next? After the palace master curiously asked this question, he immediately added another sentence. Forget it. You don't have to tell me. Even if it's a Taishaman asking you for medicinal pills, it should be painful. After dealing with Mao Qi of the Taishaman, the palace master and Yang Chun talked about the changes that had taken place in the sect when Yang Chun was in retreat these days. For more than 5 years, almost every year, Chunyang Palace would announce to the public that they recruited 2 or 3 monsters of the Yuanying stage to join the Hall of Eccentrics. And at the same time, there were dozens of monsters in the peak Jedon stage. Compared with the situation of the major sect recruiting the monster race in recent years, the action of the Chunyang Palace was neither big nor small. A big sect like the Taishaman could not find a group of Yuanying stage masters of the monster race to join them at any time and place. After all, the disciples of the big sect had killed quite a number of demons when they claimed to be eliminating demons. Not every demon would bow down and worship the Taishaman when they saw them. Generally speaking, in the first few years, the major sects would recruit a dozen or so nascent soul demon clan demons. In the following years, it was already a good result to have one nascent soul demon clan demon join every 3 to 5 years. No other sect was like Chunyang Palace, where every year 2 or 3 nascent soul realm demons would join them. Although it seemed a little ridiculous, it could be explained. On the one hand, Chunyang Palace was a small sect, and its disciples did not kill many people in the demon tribe. On this point, it had an advantage over the big sect. In addition, Chunyang Palace was the first to launch the Hall of Eccentrics, which innately made the demon clan have a sense of identity. In this way, although Chunyang Palace did not expand its strength much in the beginning, in the eyes of outsiders, in the past 5 or 6 years, the high-end strength of Chunyang Palace had almost doubled. The addition of more than a dozen nascent Soul Realm demons made the strength of Chunyang Palace more powerful. Of course, for many years, Chunyang Palace had been following Yang Chen's method, training agents in the secular world and searching for excellent disciples everywhere. After years of practice, the results were remarkable. Thousands of disciples with excellent qualifications joined Chunyang Palace with the annual recruitment ceremony of the sect. To the outside world, this was a very normal phenomenon. Chunyang Palace now had a 5th-grade alchemist, which was naturally a choice for many people. It was just that no one in other sect would find that the average qualifications of these new disciples of Chunyang Palace were much higher than those of other sect. These disciples were all properly arranged to cultivate in Yeshio manner. Over the past few decades, more than half of the new disciples had already displayed exceptional talent in cultivation and successfully reached the foundation establishment stage. Moreover, quite a number of them had already reached the middle or late stage of the foundation establishment stage in just a few decades. Compared to the disciples in the past, they were many times faster. According to this momentum, as long as there was a maximum of 100 years, the number of Jidan disciples in Chunyang Palace could increase by thousands, and with the passage of time, there would be more and more promising disciples. At least the head of the palace had seen the hope of the rise of the sect from the current development momentum of Chunyang Palace. The elders now had to vigorously cultivate some disciples at the peak of Jidan to expand the ranks of the elders. Only waiting for some promising disciples to cross the tribulation and form the nascent soul, they would join the ranks of the elders. Now there were more Yuanian cultivators in the monster race, far more than human cultivators. For the sect, this was also an unbalanced situation. Fortunately, there were more and more disciples in the peak Jidan stage. He believed that with the accumulation, coupled with the continuous supply of Yang Chen's 2nd-grade inner-sensing pills and thunder pomegranate, there would be more and more human cultivators crossing the tribulation and forming the nascent soul, and the power of Chunyang Palace would become more and more balanced. In general, the sect was very good, and everyone was happy. The head of the palace was now in a good mood, and his cultivation base had reached the peak Yuaniing stage. It had only been a few decades. Although it was because of the double cultivation with Wan Qian, the confidence of the head of the palace was also a very important reason. The other elders had different degrees of progress. Hall Master Meng Xian of the Law Enforcement Hall had reached the peak Yuaniing stage. It was estimated that in a few decades, there would be another elder of the Deshang stage in Chunyang Palace. The information obtained by the Wine Immortal House was continuously sent to Chunyang Palace, and at the same time, Senior Jiu Xian had also reached the peak Yuaniing stage. The sect had already handed over the questioning inner heart pills to Jiu Xian, waiting for him to arrange everything and then find a place to cultivate. At that time, the sect would also send the avatar of the old tree demon to protect him. Everything was developing in a good direction, and Yang Chen's painstaking management had finally produced satisfactory results. At this point, Yang Chen could first prepare for the marriage with peace of mind and marry his 4 charming brides. However, before that, there was one more thing that must be done. That was to hand over the pill recipe to the Taishaman. The 7th-grade fire seed that Yang Chen wanted was only the reward that Yang Chen wanted, and the Taishaman also had to compensate 1 or 2 in the sect, but it was not as outrageous as Yang Chen. The Taishaman were a big family. Since they had already paid this price, of course, they would not care about the small thanks to Chunyang Palace. It would take less than 2 or 3 months for Mao Qi to come and go, and he believed that he would visit again soon. He didn't know what kind of expression the senior leaders of the Taishaman would have when they heard this price, but it was certain that for Li Heng and for the spatial spiritual awareness cultivation method, the Taishaman would definitely pinch their noses and accept this big loss. It wasn't just Mao Qi who came to the greatest heaven sect. This time, There was also a Deshang stage elder who was accompanied by one of the 3 Deshang stage elders who were injured in the secret plane incident. The reason why there was a master of the Deshang stage accompanying them was also for the safety of the 7th grade fire seed. Perhaps Mao Qi and several accompanying Yuanying stage masters could ensure that the other things were foolproof, but the 7th grade fire seed would definitely cause countless masters to covet it. Chapter 887. The 7th grade fire seed was already the pinnacle of the fire seeds in the mortal world. Moreover, even if it was a master of the Deshang stage, it was not necessarily able to subdue the 7th grade fire seed. The pure yang true fire of Chunyang Palace has been kept in the secret plane since the establishment of the sect, but since the founder, no disciple has been able to subdue and absorb the pure yang true fire. The difficulty of subduing the 7th grade fire seed could be seen. This was also one of the reasons why the senior leaders of Taishaman later agreed to deliver the 7th grade fire seed. At best, it was to take the fire seed to Chunyang Palace and let Chunyang Palace keep it first. Did Yang Chun still have a chance to absorb it? Not to mention that he was just a 5th grade alchemist master. Even if it was a strong alchemist master, if his cultivation base was not enough, it was impossible to move the 7th grade fire seed. First get the pill recipe, wait for Li Hung to recover, and cultivate the spatial spiritual awareness cultivation method, and then clean up Chunyang Palace. At that time, whether it was the 7th grade fire seed or the things that had been sent before, maybe it was possible to get them back. Although neither Taishaman nor Chunyang Palace had leaked any news about this transaction before, the 7th grade fire seed was of great importance after all, and no one dared to neglect it. Taishaman accompanied a master of the Deshang stage for safety. There were no wave along the way, and they calmly arrived at Chunyang Palace. Grandmaster Yang, it's not that I don't trust you, but your pill recipe, how can you guarantee that it is true? Mao Qi or Taishaman really had such concerns, and they raised it before the transaction. Everyone was a villain before gentlemen, and they didn't worry about who would deceive who. This younger generation junior can swear by my heart. Yang Chan said this with a casual smile. In this way, Mao Qi and others had no reason to doubt it. At this point, Mao Qi and others no longer had any doubts, and they happily took out the 7th grade fire seed, profound true fire, and put it in front of Yang Chun. The 7th grade fire seed was indeed a 7th grade fire seed. This mysterious true fire was really extraordinary. Before it got close, Yang Chun felt that the yin-yang heaven-burning fire in his body seemed to be attracted by something. It wanted to fly out of his body and merge into this fire seed. If it weren't for Yang Chen's spiritual consciousness, which had already surpassed the limits of this world, forcibly suppressing the flames in his body, he might have really made a fool of himself on the spot. Mysterious true fire, he had only heard of it in the past, but he had never had the opportunity to see it. It was a 7th grade fire seed that could be comparable to the pure Yang true fire. Now it was in front of Yang Chun. It seemed that as long as Yang Chun waved his hand, he could take it. Staring at the fire seed for a long time, even Yang Chun, who had the memory of a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal in his previous life, could not help but drool like a greedy idiot, imagining all kinds of situations after he absorbed the fire seed. Ahem! Mao Qi's cough awakened Yang Chun from his fantasy. With an awkward smile, he took out a jade slip from his Chinquan bag and put it on the table. Mao Qi couldn't wait to pick up the jade slip. His spiritual consciousness explored it and began to explore the contents. After a while, he nodded slightly and handed the jade slip to the accompanying elder of the Deshang stage. This old man, who, Qiani, has not thanked the Grandmaster for saving my life last time. It was not until this time that the elder of the Deshang stage spoke. As soon as he opened his mouth, he thanked Yang Chun. Senior, you don't have to. The sect has paid enough price. This younger generation junior also took advantage of people's difficulties and exchanged it for some benefits. Yang Chun waved his hand directly. If the senior wants to thank someone, thank your sect master Li and home master Mao. This old man is very curious. Grandmaster, you have collected so many fire seeds. What is the use? Hu Qiani, as a master of the Deshang stage, would not entangle himself in this kind of thing. Anyway, as long as he expressed his own thoughts, he did not care whether Yang Chun accepted it or not. But he immediately asked Yang Chun this question. In fact, it was not only Hu Qinny who had this doubt. Many people in the Blue Cloud sect of the Green Jade Immortal Island were very puzzled about this. Even the elders in the Chunyang Palace, everyone was also puzzled. Yang Chun took so many fire seeds. What was he going to do? Alchemy. Yang Chun gave such an answer very irresponsibly. Different medicinal materials need different flames to exert the greatest medicinal effect. This younger generation junior uses these fire seeds for alchemy. Grandmaster's alchemy skills are unparalleled in the world. Hu Qinny was full of smiles, and there was a strong sense of admiration in his words. But he turned the thread of conversation and said another aspect. I don't know if the Grandmaster has taken this 7th grade fire seed. Can you be sure to use it for alchemy? Don't blame this old man for being old. I believe that with the cultivation base of the Grandmaster, not to mention the 7th grade fire seed, even if it is a 6th grade fire seed, in this old man's opinion, the Grandmaster is also quite reluctant. It seemed that he also saved a little face for Yang Chun. In fact, the meaning that he wanted to express was not reluctant, but it was simply impossible. How many amazing cultivators were burned to ashes when they absorbed the 5th grade fire seed? Yang Chun, a small Jidan stage master, dared to covet the 7th grade fire seed? In the end, it was still the Taishamen who were unwilling. Hu Qinny said this, but in fact, it was to plant a seed of a heart devil in Yang Chen's heart. In the future, as long as Yang Chun thought that although he greedily got the 7th grade fire seed, he could only look at it, this mood would definitely affect Yang Chen's cultivation. Yang Chun was already a 5th grade alchemy master. In the view of the Taishamen, it was best to stop here and must not let Yang Chun have a chance to go to the next level. It was better to honestly give everyone alchemy and not to think about it. Senior doesn't have to worry about it. Of course, Yang Chun heard Hu Qinny's meaning. There was no anger on his face. He smiled and replied, as long as you hold it in your hand, it is a happy thing to use it or not. It is better than having nothing in your hand. And the Grandmaster should take good care of it. Don't lose it. Hu Qinny had a kind smile on his face and said earnestly, you know, treasure is a crime. This 7th grade fire seed and the Grandmaster's alchemy inheritance, I believe that many people will be interested in it. Well said, well said. Yang Chun didn't care at all. Instead, he nodded and said this younger generation junior will pay attention to it. If the senior needs this younger generation junior to do alchemy next time, just say it. As long as the price is right, this younger generation junior will never refuse. When it came to the word price, Yang Chun deliberately emphasized the pronunciation. Anyone could hear the ridicule in Yang Chun's mouth. However, the Taishamen had just obtained the pill recipe. Although Yang Chun swore by the devil, to be on the safe side, they still needed an alchemy master to verify it. For a while, Hu Qinny did not dare to offend Yang Chun too much. He just smiled and said nothing. Mao Qi had already smoothed things over. The two sides had completed the transaction. Mao Qi was eager to return to the sect. He hurriedly said goodbye to the head of the palace, and the group quickly left Chunyang Palace. As long as we wait to refine this spirit-congealing pill, then Elder who can do whatever he wants. Mao Qi was also unwilling in his heart, and said angrily, even if the pure Yang Palace is destroyed, it is not impossible. Chapter 888. Mao Qi said this, of course there was a basis. As long as the spirit-congealing pill worked, it could allow Li Heng to contact the predecessors in the spiritual world. Naturally, when the time comes, there would be pill recipes and cultivation methods. Who would care about a small Chunyang Palace? Now, they couldn't touch Chunyang Palace, mainly because of Yang Chun. At that time, there would be no scruples and the Chunyang Palace would be destroyed. At that time, even if it was the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect, would they fight with the Taishamen? At that time, the two major sects would have enough questioning inner heart pills. Or would they care about Yang Chun? Thinking of this, Mao Qi suddenly thought of a problem. Since Yang Chun was willing to sell the pill recipe of the spirit-congealing pill, was Yang Chun also willing to sell the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill? Thinking of the previous matter of the heaven-seizing pill, Yang Chun said that he was willing to sell the pill recipe, but at that time, people felt that the price was too high and no one was willing. Now that he has exchanged a 7th-grade fire seed for the pill recipe of the spirit congealing pill, could he also exchange the questioning inner heart pill? As soon as this question appeared in his mind, he couldn't stop thinking about it, and he kept thinking about this possibility. At this time, Mao Qi had some regrets. If he knew this, he shouldn't have let Elder who stimulate Yang Chan behind him. He also wanted to plant a heart devil in him. He should have asked about this matter first. No, Yang Chun was willing to sell the pill recipe. There should be no other sect that knows about it now. This time, he must send the pill recipe of the spirit congealing pill back as soon as possible, and then report this matter to Sect Master Li. If he could get the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill and heaven-seizing pill, wouldn't he never have to look at Yang Chen's face in the future? It was just a 7th-grade fire seed. In the secret plane of Taishaman, there were at least 3 kinds of 7th-grade fire seeds, enough to buy all the pill recipes that Yang Chen was now proud of. The 7th-grade fire seed was not an ordinary fire seed. Even if he wanted to destroy it, the masters of the Deshang stage did not have this ability. He would put it in his storage, and when the time came, he would naturally take it back. The more Mao Qi thought about it, the more proud he was. Last time, because of his indecisiveness, he missed a good opportunity and was scolded by the sect master and several core elders. This time, he had finally found a way to redeem himself, and it was a great contribution to the sect. No, I must hurry back and settle this matter with the sect master and the elders. Otherwise, once the news spreads, the other sect will definitely catch wind of it. Yang Chun sent the Taishaman away. He no longer cared about them. Anyway, the trap would take decades, so there was no need to rush. His own marriage would be held 4 years later, so Yang Chun did not have to worry about it. However, there was one thing that was pressing on his eyebrows, and he had to pay attention to it. Gong Sunling's Mountain River geographical map. After collecting 3 masters of the Deshang stage and hundreds of masters of the Yuanying stage, was finally about to be completed. The tempering of the life source magic weapon depended on the level of each person's cultivation base. Generally speaking, the Yuanying stage ancestors needed to temper it for decades, and the Jedon stage masters needed more time. It was possible for hundreds of years or even hundreds of years. Of course, the longer the tempering time, the higher the tacit understanding between the magic weapon and the owner. This was beyond doubt. Even Yang Chun himself, who has been tempering the immortal beheading blade for more than 150 years, felt that it was not yet finished. In Yang Chen's plan, the Jedon stage was all used to temper the life source magic weapon. Of course, there were some exceptions to Yang Chen's situation. In addition to the immortal beheading blade, the Great Yin and Yang 5 Elements flying sword had to be tempered, and the other flying swords were supplementary. The consumption time was shorter, and they could be used at any time. This was something that no one else could do. Different people had different situations. Yang Chun was in such a situation, and Gao Yu was in another situation. Although the Dragon Horn flying sword has not yet been formed, in the process of Gao Yu's spiritual power and spiritual awareness, scouring and infiltration, it was also equivalent to the tempering of the life source magic weapon. After all, the process of refining the magic weapon by the refiner himself was also a tempering process that could not be ignored. Not everyone was a refiner, so most people's magic weapons were refined by others. In the tempering of the life source magic weapon, a large part of the consumption was to erase the original refiner's imprint on the magic weapon. Gong Sunling's situation was the most special. The Mountain River geographical map had no owner's aura, especially after being cleaned by Xiao Tian. It was completely a pure magic weapon, and it was branded with its own imprint. Moreover, the characteristics of the Mountain River geographical map determined that Gong Sunling was destined to spend less time tempering than everyone else, but could achieve better results. There was no other way. Even if it was Yang Chun, there were 3 more Deshang stage masters and hundreds of Yuanying stage masters to help him temper the magic weapon. It could also be very fast. But this does not mean that Gong Sunling can easily complete the tempering work. Although the process of tempering could save a lot of time, the final step of the tempering still required Gong Sunling's full concentration to be able to complete it. There was no perfect thing in the world, and the situation of Gong Sunling was the same. Although many masters helped to save the time of the tempering, it also caused the tempering of the mountain river geographical map to not be pure. Although the leader was still Gong Sunling, there were still some impurities after all. The final step was to thoroughly filter the spiritual power of those who helped, so that the mountain river geographical map would completely become Gong Sunling's life source magic weapon. For Gong Sunling in her previous life, this process would definitely be extremely difficult, and it would even take no less than the time of tempering to complete it. But now, with the help of Yang Chun, everything was much simpler. Every master of refining, if there was a chance, would not miss the feast of tempering the mountain river geographical map. In front of Gong Sunling, Yang Chun, Gao Yu, and Wang Yong were now staring at her. At the same time, Gong Sunling's master and Gao Shiyan were also on the side, always concerned about their own disciples. Her spiritual awareness was already at the peak Yuanying stage, and Gong Sunling's control of her own spiritual power was definitely among the top in the world. In addition to the masters of the Deshang stage, it belonged to this realm. Yang Chun was very concerned about his wife's affairs. Not only did she have the spirit power of the fifth earth to help her cultivate, but in terms of external forces, there was also the best material in purifying impurities, the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling have seen the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid many times, and Wang Yong has also drunk a cup of filial piety from Yang Chun. However, when Yang Chun took out the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid and placed it in front of everyone, even Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, the two people who were not surprised, were shocked. No matter which cultivator, no matter how high their cultivation base, how broad their knowledge, after seeing a large bathtub filled with the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid suddenly appear in front of them, they would be scared like this. Chapter 889. How could there be so much? The first thought in the minds of Gao Yu and Gong Sunling was this. Then they were extremely shocked. They remembered that Yang Chun said that they could bathe with the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid if they wanted. It turned out to be true. Fortunately, the two women knew that Yang Chen's family was rich, so they were surprised and shocked, but they did not show too much shock. On the contrary, the ancestor Wang Yong next to him was very excessive. Wang Yong's whisper of exclamation and his action of standing up shocked Elder Gao Shiyan and Gong Sunling's master Lu Qing next to him. Elder Gao and Lu Qing have not seen the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid, and for a while, they did not think of what this was, so they were still calm. But Wang Yong's gaffe made the two of them a little uneasy. Wang Yong has seen the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid and drank a cup of Yang Chen's filial piety, but he did not expect that Yang Chun would directly take out so much stock. He was already a master of the Deshang stage, and his mind was extremely firm. But when facing a large bathtub of the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid, he still couldn't keep calm. He didn't know where his many years of cultivation had gone. How could it be? It was all so unbelievable, but the facts in front of him made Wang Yong believe it. This kind of good thing, which basically belonged to the legend, as long as one drop could make countless people fight for it, it was like a free bath water in front of him. Even if Wang Yong already had the Qilin Horn, Flying Sword, and the Qilin Heavenly Fire, he couldn't accept it calmly in front of this kind of thing that almost surpassed the wealth of a sect. Gao Shiyan and Lu Qing, the master and apprentice, really couldn't understand how so many characteristic liquids could make Wang Yong, who was already a master of the Deshang stage, lose his temper and even jump up. What is this? Although Gao Shiyan looked at the color of the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid, it should be a very characteristic thing, but he still did not associate the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid with the amount of such a large bathtub, and asked with some surprise. Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. Wang Yong almost said these 5 words one by one. After that, Gao Shiyan and Lu Qing fell into a daze. They stood there dumbfounded, unable to speak or do anything. A drop could improve the grade of medicinal pills. A drop could improve the grade of magic weapons. the legendary Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. Would there be so many? Are you kidding me? Gao Shiyan and Lu Qing didn't want to believe Wang Yong's words at all. But what reason did Wang Yong have to lie to them? Moreover, the characteristics of the liquid in front of the master and apprentice were exactly the same as the legendary Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. There was no difference. Is this really the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid? After a stick of incense, the two recovered from the sluggish state, but there were still doubts in their hearts. Was this really the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid? Gong Sunling's mountain river geographical map did not explain too clearly to Gao Shiyan and Lu Qing. It was not directly said that it was a Dragon Palace magic weapon, but it was also simply said that this was a high-level magic weapon. The spiritual power contained in it was not pure enough, and it needed to be purified at the last minute. Although the two were concerned, there was no way. It could only be completed by Gong Sunling. But after having these Four Seas mysterious coral liquid, it was completely different. As long as the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid was soaked in this Four Seas mysterious coral liquid for a long time, Gong Sunling would use her own spiritual power to finally quench it. It was completely possible to drive out the impure spiritual power and make the mountain river geographical map pure. It seems that Yang Chun has arranged everything for his beloved wife. After Gao Shiyan and Lu Qing finally accepted the facts in front of them, they were completely relieved. For Gong Sunling, both of them loved her very much. Gong Sunling's life source magic weapon could be completed, and the two were naturally happy. The only thing that couldn't be relieved was that just for Gong Sunling's life source magic weapon of the Jidan stage, he used so much Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. Wasn't it a bit of a waste? It must be known that so much Four Seas mysterious coral liquid was enough to make Chunyang Palace have countless elixirs and countless magic weapons. In the hearts of Gao Shiyan and Lu Qing, they naturally had another idea. Yang Chen's 5th grade alchemist master may be based on this Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. It must be known that the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid could balance various medicinal properties. It was a highly respected auxiliary material that was allowed to be added during alchemy. Yang Chun was young and had such a level of alchemy. It should be impossible to get rid of the help of the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. Yang Chun didn't care what Elder Gao and Uncle Lu thought in their hearts. The important thing now was to complete the mountain river geographical map. Under Yang Chen's gesture, Gong Sunling unfolded all the mountain river geographical map and immersed it in the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. Not only that, Gong Sunling's whole body was picked up by Yang Chun and put into the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid, and then she began to refine it with spiritual power. If outsiders saw it, they would definitely think that this was Gong Sunling taking a bath with the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid. In fact, it was almost the same, but at the same time as the bath, there was also the work of refining. Gong Sunling was completing the final tempering, but the others present were already in a different mind. For Yang Chen's extravagance, in addition to Gao Yu Gong Sunling, Master Ancestor Wang Yong, and Elder Gao, and Uncle Lu finally had an idea. In the same way, they were more confident about the future of Chunyang Palace. Not to mention anything else, just these Four Seas mysterious coral liquid were enough to at least double the strength of the sect. If everyone had a magic treasure that could upgrade grade, their strength would increase by more than just double. What made them the happiest was that their beloved disciples and grand disciples had found such a good home. This made them even happier than their own breakthroughs. The Four Seas mysterious coral liquid really lived up to expectations. After Gong Sunling took the mountain river geographical map and soaked it in the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid, the large basin of liquid did not stop churning. Traces of spiritual power escaped from the mountain river geographical map, and the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid had a small bubble. From the outside, it looked like the Four Seas mysterious coral liquid was boiling. This process lasted for almost half a year, and the boiling Four Seas mysterious coral liquid slowly subsided. Without the escape of impurities, the mountain river geographical map had become extremely pure. When Gong Sunling stopped, an almost solid dragon shadow directly flew out of the four seas' mysterious coral liquid and went straight to the sky. After flying in the air for half an incense stick of time, it slowly dissipated around. Subsequently, Gong Sunling, wrapped in a mountain river geographical map, slowly rose from the four seas' mysterious coral liquid and slowly fell to the ground. The original scroll form of the mountain river geographical map turned into a fitting dress in front of everyone, wrapped around Gong Sunling. Chapter 890. Looking at this scene of Gong Sunling, everyone was happy. But at this time, Yang Chun did something that everyone couldn't imagine. He actually summoned dozens of flying swords directly from the Chinquan bag and attacked Gong Sunling. The smiling expression on Gong Sunling's face did not change at all, and she did not even move her feet, but there was a light mist around her body. This light mist seemed very thin, as if it could be seen through at a glance, but Yang Chin's dozens of flying swords slashed over and fell into the light mist, but they all fell into the air. Dozens of flying swords did not hit the real thing, as if Gong Sunling and the light mist had no body. A group of flying swords flew out of the light mist, circled around, and once again went to kill Gong Sunling. This time, Gong Sunling seemed to have changed her strategy and withdrew the light mist. The flying sword controlled by Yang Chun slashed firmly on Gong Sunling's body. Poo poo poo, a series of dull sounds rang. Gong Sunling's delicate body did not change in the slightest, but the flying swords that cut her body seemed to have been cut on a tough ball full of gas, and they were bounced back. This time, Yang Chun did not continue to experiment, but recalled all the flying swords. However, the scene just now had made everyone understand the strength of Gong Sunling's defense. As for the means of attack, the mountain river geographical map could be used. Almost all the Jidon stage masters at the same level as Gong Sunling, their spiritual awareness was not as strong as Gong Sunling, and they could basically be collected by Gong Sunling. Even some masters in the early and middle Yuanying stage, under the powerful power of the mountain river geographical map, could only be defeated. The treasures of the Dragon Clan, the things that were willing to be stored in the treasure house, were not simple. On this point, Yang Chun firmly believed. Now he was just afraid that the mountain river geographical map was too important, so he did not tell everything to Gao, Shiyin, and Lu Qing. Otherwise, Yang Chun could demonstrate the attack of the mountain river geographical map on the spot. Other than Yang Chun and Wang Yong, no one else would be able to escape from the illusory realm. Let me see what the picture has become. Yang Chun excitedly asked Gong Sunling for the picture to have a closer look. Of course, Gong Sunling would not refuse. The geographical map of the mountains and rivers, which had just turned into a gorgeous dress, returned to its original shape and was handed over to Yang Chun. Compared with before, the current mountain river geographical map was a little more spiritual, perhaps because it had a master. Opening the scroll, Yang Chun immediately saw a lot more things in the center of the scroll. Originally, it was just a small dot, including the entire East China Sea, but now it was a palm-sized black dot, including the Central Plains Dao Sex, the South China Sea, and a large part of the monster race. In addition, there were many territories of the demon sex. In addition, some places that Gong Sunling had deliberately run before. The area was several times more than the original. With a nod, Yang Chun returned the mountain river geographical map to Gong Sunling. Gao Shiyin and Lu Qing both took a look at it like Yang Chun, but they could not see any clues. They only knew that this magic weapon was extremely powerful. Of course, Wang Yong would not miss this opportunity. As soon as the mountain river geographical map was in his hands, Wang Yong understood what material it was. He couldn't help but give Yang Chun a slightly surprised look, but with Gao Yu's water and fire dragon horns first, this dragon skin map did not make Wang Yong lose his composure again. The refining method of the dragon race was undoubtedly shown on this mountain river geographical map, and it also gave Wang Yong some inspiration to refine the dragon race materials. It was also a great help to help Gao Yu refine the dragon horn flying sword in the future. Finally, everyone had seen the mountain river geographical map. After everyone congratulated Gong Sunling, Everyone's eyes were focused on the large basin of 4C's mysterious coral liquid. Master Ancestor, Uncle Master Lu, although some of these 4C's mysterious coral liquids have been consumed, they can still come in handy. Yang Chun certainly knew how to deal with it. In fact, before he took it out, he had already thought about how to deal with it. If you don't mind, this disciple wants to hand these over to Uncle Master Lu and Uncle Master Lu to deal with. I also asked the two elders not to decline. Where would Gao Shiyin and Lu Qing still think of declining? They have been smashed by the big pie falling from the sky and almost fainted. So many 4C's mysterious coral liquids were actually handed over to them like this. Although Gong Sunling has already used it, who would care? With these 4C's mysterious coral liquids, whether it was Elder Gao or Lu Qing, they could definitely use it to expel the impurities in their bodies. Elder Gao may be able to enter the peak middle Yuanying stage. As for Lu Qing, he was at the peak Jidan stage, taking this opportunity to expel the impurities in his body, and then using the second-grade inner sensing pill, he may be able to cross his tribulation and form his nascent soul. With the protection of Thunder Pomegranate, the success rate of forming his nascent soul was almost more than 90%. But after all, the two still did not dare to accept it all. But after each took a large cup, they handed the 4C's mysterious coral liquid to the sect. Anyway, that large cup was enough for them to use. If the sect got these 4C's mysterious coral liquids, it could also increase a lot of masters. The strength of the sect would improve, and the resources would increase correspondingly, which would be more beneficial to their future cultivation. This was a benign promotion process. The head of the palace and other elders did not expect that they would suddenly receive such a big gift. In addition to being pleasantly surprised, they praised Yang Chen's good luck for being able to collect the 1,000-year-old mysterious coral. In this way, the number of people in Chunyang Palace who crossed their tribulation and formed their nascent soul would become more and more stunning in the days to come. Increasing the number of Yuanying stage people needed to be careful, but there was no such thing as their own Jidan stage disciples crossing their tribulation and forming their nascent soul. Anyway, there was Yang Chun, a master of alchemy. So what if there were more people in Chunyang Palace crossing their tribulation and forming their nascent soul? The more disciples who became Yuanying stage disciples, the better the Chunyang Palace's second-grade inner sensing pill would sell, and the more popular the Thunder Pomegranate would be in the future. At least until the other sect's alchemy masters studied the refining method of the second-grade inner sensing pill. This benefit would be taken by Chunyang Palace. And the more disciples formed their nascent soul, the stronger the strength of Chunyang Palace would be. Here, the high-level members of Chunyang Palace were happily racking their brains to think about how to distribute this large basin of 4C's mysterious coral liquid. Over there, the Taishamen were discussing the possibility of buying the pill recipe from Yang Chun. Last time, Yang Chun did say that the pill recipe could be exchanged with fire seeds. An elder of Taishamen who had experienced the old events of that year and was on the scene confirmed Yang Chen's statement at that time. So, Yang Chun can even sell the pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill, then the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill should also be sold. Mao Qi's judgment, coupled with the affirmation of the elder, made a core elder have a new judgment on Yang Chun. Chapter 891. In the past, this kid dared to offer the price of a 7th-grade fire seed. It seems that it was premeditated. The elder next to him echoed, "If the sect can get the pill recipes of the questioning inner heart pill and the heaven-seizing pill, it is not impossible to consider." There is no need to say what the questioning inner heart pill meant. Over the years, there have been 3 more masters of the Deshang stage, all of whom were from the Green Jade, Immortal Island, and the Blue Cloud sect, which has caused a lot of pressure on the Taishamen. At this time, the Taishamen were focused on getting the spirit congealing pill from Yang Chun. In terms of the questioning inner heart pill, they naturally fell behind a lot. Although in the long run, this was beneficial to the Taishamen. With the guidance of the predecessors in the spiritual world and the immortal world, the Taishamen would dominate the world in the future. But at present, they had to face the reality that the first position of the Dao sects was in jeopardy. But if there was the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill, it was another matter. Instead of spending a huge price to let Yang Chun refine the medicinal pill, it was better to master this refining method. It was two different things to have the core technology in hand and to buy it from others. It was better to solve the problem fundamentally than to keep buying it out and be held by others. The materials of the heaven-seizing pill are scarce. We don't have to consider it for the time being. The sect master and several elders communicated a little and felt that the plan to buy the pill recipe was feasible. However, the sect still had two kinds of 7th-grade fire seeds, but they had to weigh it. Yang Chun could even sell the spirit congealing pill for a 7th-grade fire seed. The price of the questioning inner heart pill recipe would definitely not be too low. Hall Master Mao, please go to Chunyang Palace again. Sect Master Li directly ordered at the elders' meeting, together with Elder, who take two kinds of 7th-grade fire seeds directly to talk to Yang Chun. See if you could buy the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill and the heaven-seizing pill. If you can only buy one kind, buy the questioning inner heart pill. If you can buy it back, Hall Master Mao, you will be the first one. Mao Qi could be considered to be proud and elated this time. The last time he messed up the deal, he was scolded by the sect's higher-ups. Now, he finally had a chance to turn things around. Not to mention that Sect Master Li had asked him to handle this matter. Even if he didn't have to do it himself, the credit for this proposal would still belong to him. Naturally, Pavilion Master Mao's complexion was different from before. Elder Hu, on the other hand, seemed a little unhappy because he might have to face Yang Chun again. Even though Yang Chun had concocted pills to treat his injuries, Elder Hu was not grateful to Yang Chun. The sect paid a high price for this, so that Elder Hu had no choice but to obey Sect Master Li and the others. In the eyes of Elder Hu, he was a senior elder of the Taishaman, a master of the Deshang stage. Yang Chun should take the initiative to do a favor and send medicinal pill to his door to win his favor. Yang Chun was good. He even used this to blackmail and let Elder Hu pay a lot of price. How could this not make Elder Hu unhappy with Yang Chun? This time, Elder Hu made up his mind to never appear in front of Yang Chun again. He escorted the things to the place and let Mao Qi negotiate by himself. Anyway, Elder Hu did not intend to get involved again. Elder Hu was able to get Yang Chun's 5th-grade Lingji mushroom jade pill first, but he paid a high price, which also weakened his strength in the sect a lot. However, Elder Hu was not without a way to deal with it. No one knew that the last time he tested the authenticity of the spirit congealing pill recipe, he had already firmly remembered the pill recipe in his mind. Outside the sect, Elder Hu also secretly ran a small force, which had a good alchemist. After this opportunity to get the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill, Elder Hu decided to let the alchemist refine it. As long as he had the questioning inner heart pill in his hands, everything would not be a problem. As for waiting for the sect to refine it and distribute it, the feeling of being controlled by others, how could it be better than holding the questioning inner heart pill in his hands? Of course, Mao Qi could not know Elder Hu's thoughts. Mao Qi rushed to Chunyang Palace excitedly all the way, but he caught up with Yang Chun, who was guarding Gong Sunling. Hall Master Mao has been waiting patiently for Yang Chun to come out again, and then he sat with Yang Chun again. Senior Mao is a frequent visitor. Yang Chun poured a cup of fragrant tea for Mao Qi, which was also a treat for the Taishaman Foreign Affairs Hall Master, who had brought him countless benefits. I don't know what you want this time. Let's not talk nonsense. I just want to ask. Mao Qi and Yang Chun had dealt with each other several times, and he also knew Yang Chun's character. He went straight to the point, the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill and the heaven-seizing pill. Are you selling? Sell. Hearing Mao Qi's question, Yang Chun was very stunned, but then he immediately returned to normal and directly gave Mao Qi a heart-stirring answer. As long as the price is right, it's negotiable. On Mao Qi's face, a smile suddenly bloomed like a flower. He now liked the young man in front of him too much, although the sect did not seem to deal with him, and failed to let Yang Chun join them several times, and even had the intention to kill him and put it into action. But this did not hinder Mao Qi's love for Yang Chun. Where could he find this kind of person who could trade as long as the price was right? There were many people who were tempted in their minds, but they said that wealth and honor could not be corrupted and poverty could not be moved. Compared with Yang Chun was 10,000 times more lovely than them. So what if the price was high? It was an exclusive business, and it was normal for the price to be high. Anyway, Mao Qi asked himself if it was him, and Yang Chun came to the door. If he wanted to sell, he would be more ruthless than Yang Chun. If the world was full of people like Yang Chun, there would be no disputes, and anything could be exchanged for a high enough price. In terms of resources, Taishaman would not be inferior to any sect. I, Mao Qi, should be rich. This was the real thought in Mao Qi's mind. After going back, he must suggest to the sect to keep Yang Chen's life. In the future, if the sect wanted any medicinal pills, a fifth-grade alchemist was definitely the first choice. You name a price. Mao Qi directly handed the bamboo pole to Yang Chen again. As long as it's not too excessive, everything is negotiable. Senior Mao is really a straightforward person. Yang Chen's eyes almost narrowed. He almost saw that the treasure house of Taishaman had opened the door to him. This younger generation junior is honest in doing business. The method of harmonizing the heaven-seizing pill has been said before. A seventh-grade fire seed will never be changed. Yang Chun even spoke with a smile in his tone, which made people too happy. The pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill, 2 seventh-grade fire seeds. Is it too much? It's not too much. It's not too much at all. Mao Qi's head shook like a rattle. This price was almost the lowest he could think of. Yang Chun was also very kind and did not increase the price of the heaven-seizing pill, which was already giving him a lot of face. When he thought that he would soon get the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill, even if Mao Qi was a Yuanying stage master, he couldn't help but feel his heart beat faster. Chapter 892. Yang Chen's heart was full of doubts. What was wrong with the Taishaman these few times? Was it a sense of accomplishment to give Yang Chun a 7th-grade fire seed? Or were there so many 7th-grade fire seeds in Taishaman that they had to be such a spendthrift? It stands to reason that Grandmaster's offer is not outrageous. With the instructions of Sect Master Li before leaving, Mao Qi certainly knew that his 2 7th-grade fire seeds could only buy the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill. However, Mao Qi still wanted to fight for it and get the pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill. It's just that my sect doesn't have so many 7th-grade fire seeds. I don't know if I can exchange it for something else. Senior Mao, just say it. It's not that it can't be discussed. Yang Chen also didn't have the slightest intention of saying nothing and calmly asked, You and I have traded many times, and it can be regarded as a small friendship. Everything can be discussed. To tell the truth, my sect now only has 2 kinds of 7th-grade fire seeds on hand. Mao Qi was not afraid that Yang Chun would make waves after knowing it. Instead, he directly said his difficulties. According to reason, I can only buy the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill. However, this old man is a little greedy. I also want this heaven-seizing pill. Well, if there is no 7th-grade fire seed, you can exchange it with other things. This junior doesn't care. Yang Chun smiled and said, The two seem to be business partners for many years. Very natural. You said that a method of reconciliation can be exchanged with a low-grade fire seed. I don't know if all the methods of reconciliation can be exchanged with low-grade fire seeds. Mao Qi was determined to take the treasures of the Taishaman in exchange for his own credit. He didn't mind revealing how much news to Yang Chun. A 7th-grade fire seed. How about it be converted into 10 6th-grade fire seeds? If it's someone else, naturally it won't work. Yang Chun gave Mao Qi enough face, but since Senior Mao has spoken, I have to give face anyway deal. Without waiting for Mao Qi to respond ecstatically, Yang Chun said in front of him, However, I have to say something first. Please don't mind. Just say it. Mao Qi thought that there were some changes. His face changed slightly, and he extended his hand. Since the predecessor wants to buy the questioning inner heart pill, this heaven-seizing pill, in fact, it doesn't matter if you buy it or not. At this moment, Yang Chun had a posture of thinking for Mao Qi, and patiently guided. Moreover, the materials of this heaven-seizing pill are very rare. Why does Senior need to spend this money? It's all right. When Mao Qi heard that Yang Chen was talking about this, he relaxed for a while and was no longer nervous. What he was most afraid of was that Yang Chen would not agree, not that Yang Chen did not offer a price. Questioning inner heart pill has its own advantages. Heaven-seizing pill has its own advantages. There will always be people who can use it. What Yang Chen said was indeed reasonable. Anyway, as long as he cultivated to the Deshang stage, if his aptitude was good enough, he could naturally cultivate to the peak Deshang stage and cross his tribulation and ascend. With the help of the questioning inner heart pill, the possibility of ascension has increased a lot, but he really doesn't need the heaven-seizing pill. But Mao Qi had other ideas. The young sect master Li Liheng's spiritual power cultivation base was not very good. But if he cultivated the spatial spiritual awareness cultivation method, he would definitely be the best candidate for the sect master in the future. At that time, this heaven-seizing pill would be prepared for Li Liheng in advance. Even when sect master Li and several core elders decided to buy the heaven-seizing pill, it was estimated that it was for this purpose. He could please the current sect master and core elders, and, at the same time, he could also please the future sect master. He would use the resources of the sect and get Mao Qi's own favor. Of course, this deal was very feasible. At this moment, to be honest, Yang Chen's happiness was definitely more than Mao Qi's. It could even be said that he was ecstatic and overjoyed. In such a short time, the transaction of 2 kinds of 7th grade fire seeds and 10 kinds of 6th grade fire seeds was settled, and the other party only got a pill recipe that he couldn't refine and a pill recipe with scarce materials. This deal was definitely a big profit. Sometimes, Yang Chen even had an unreal feeling. Sitting at home, could such a good thing fall from the sky? He originally set a small trap for the Taishamen to make them suffer heavy losses. He didn't expect that the Taishamen would take the initiative to increase the price. Whether it was the Taishamen's high-level collective brain cramps or Mao Qi's madness. In short, since the other party was so cooperative, if Yang Chen still refused, it would be too unreasonable. The transaction that would make countless people go crazy was settled with these few sentences. The process was so simple that it made people's hair stand on end, but the content of the transaction was enough to make everyone jump in anger. Mao Qi must have made a great contribution this time. The pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill and the pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill were obtained at the same time. For the Taishamen, it was like adding wings to a tiger. So what if the blue cloud sect of the green jade Immortal Island has the questioning inner heart pill? My Taishamen have the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill. However, Yang Chen's decision was unanimously opposed by the head of the palace and the elders. The questioning inner heart pill was now the biggest reliance for the rise of the Qinyang Palace. If it was handed over to the Taishamen, it would not be destroying their own foundation, which was absolutely unacceptable. The transaction between Yang Chen and the Taishamen was absolutely inseparable from the Qinyang Palace. The high-level members of the Pure Yang Palace objected like this, and Mao Qi was a little anxious. The real trouble had been solved here. On the contrary, it was the high-level members of the Pure Yang Palace who were stuck in the side branches. How could Mao Qi not be annoyed? In the eyes of Mao Qi, these guys were more greedy than the other. In the past, the small sect had never seen good things. Now there was a chance. When he saw that Yang Chen's disciple had a lot of harvest, he couldn't help but jump out and want to take a bite. To deal with this kind of country bumpkin who had never seen the world, the Taishamen had many ways. Mao Qi had dealt with more than 1 or 2 of them. The high level of the Pure Yang Palace was nothing more than wanting benefits. The 7th grade fire seed had already been taken out. Did they still care about other goods? The performance of the palace master and the elders also confirmed Mao Qi's judgment. It was not good to let everyone pass, but it was always okay to break them one by one, right? Therefore, when Hall Master Mao visited several elders and sent valuable gifts, there was almost no opposition at the sect's meeting in Qinyang Palace. However, the Taishamen still gave Qinyang Palace a benefit for this. This was a transaction between the sect and could not be avoided. With all kinds of contempt, Hallmaster Mao first traded the questioning inner heart pill recipe and 2 kinds of 7th-grade fire seeds with Yang Chun. After Yang Chun made a hard oath, Hallmaster Mao, an elder who both checked the authenticity of the pill recipe. The people of Taishaman returned to Taishaman with a satisfied mood to take 10 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds to complete the exchange of the heaven-seizing pill recipe. When Mao Qi and Hu Qini left, the head of the palace and the elders gathered together. Together with Yang Chun, everyone began to exchange what kind of gifts Mao Qi had given in order to buy them. Laughter and laughter lingered in the ears. Chapter 893. Yang Chun said that even if the pill recipe was given to Taishaman, the alchemists of Taishaman would not be able to refine it. For this point, the high-level officials of Chunyang Palace were convinced. The medicinal pills that could be refined by a 5th-grade alchemist were by no means something that any alchemist below this realm could refine. Now, the people in Chunyang Palace just had to wait quietly for the passage of time, and then the Taishaman would come to their door again. The original 1 share of benefits had now become 2.5 shares. Thinking about it made people happy. As for taking the things of Taishaman, no one in the high-level officials had this idea. From the beginning of the design of Chunyang Palace by Taishaman, they were already enemies of life and death. How could they care about this much? Mao Qi rushed back with the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill, and Elder Hu Qini also escorted him all the way back to Taishaman. After Mao Qi reported the transaction, a group of elders of the medicinal hall took the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill and carefully studied it. Mao Qi took 10 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds and once again set foot on the road to Chunyang Palace. There was no doubt that this time, Mao Qi had definitely made a great contribution. The pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill had made him erase all the previous mistakes. Next, Mao Qi's status in the sect would definitely rise. Not to mention, Mao Qi also got Yang Chen's promise to exchange 10 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds for the pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill. The spirit-congealing pill and the questioning inner heart pill could not be said now, but the heaven-seizing pill could definitely be refined by the medicinal hall of Taishaman. At that time, Elder Wu Xiong only relied on 3 3rd-grade alchemists in the Yuanying stage to complete the initial refining. In the end, it was just Yang Chun who neutralized the medicinal properties with those blended powders. Even without the questioning inner heart pill, this heaven-seizing pill could definitely make a master of the Deshang stage transcend the tribulation and ascend. Elder Wu Xiong was proof. The senior members of the Greatest Heaven sect rejoiced. With these pill recipes, the Greatest Heaven sect could no longer look at the face of the Pure Yang Palace. They didn't have to beg Yang Chun in a low voice. Maybe they would even step on Yang Chun under their feet. This feeling of pride was the momentum that the disciples of the Greatest Heaven sect should have. Several of the best alchemists in the pill congealing hall had already begun refining. After returning and obtaining the pill formula, many people came to a sudden realization. So that was how it was. No wonder they had not been able to study it thoroughly before. Everyone agreed that there was absolutely no problem with the pill formula of this spirit-congealing pill. It was in line with various pharmacology, and the formula was extremely brilliant. However, there were 2 things that were extremely troublesome. First, it is impossible to refine the spirit-congealing pill with 1 kind of fire seed. At least 4 kinds of fire seeds are needed for the initial formation. Moreover, the higher the level of the fire seed, the better the medicinal effect. This was one of the reasons why Yang Chun would ask for a variety of fire seeds in exchange for medicinal pills. Another trouble was the final process of collecting the pill. The technique was mysterious and complicated, and it required multiple distractions to achieve the goal. From a unilateral point of view, at least 8 aspects must be taken care of at the same time. Now, most alchemists seem to be able to do 2 or 3 things at most, but it was not easy to take care of more thoughts. These 2 conditions, for the time being, were not met by the masters of Taishaman's alchemy. When everyone cultivates, they all choose the most suitable fire seed to cultivate and control multiple fire seeds at the same time. Once they affect each other, they may be in danger of being burned by the fire seed. Similarly, To collect the pill and deal with 8 aspects at the same time was not something that the masters of Taishaman could do. Originally, the high-level officials thought that after reaching this conclusion, everyone would have to ask Yangchun for help. But the master of the medicinal hall gave a solution that was a multi-person joint refining. The spirit congealing pill required 4 kinds of fire seeds to be refined at the same time. So 4 alchemists would be used, each with 1 kind of fire seed. As long as the 4 people cooperated with each other, there was a possibility of success. Of course, it was the same when collecting the pill. It was necessary to take care of 8 aspects and play 8 spirit arts at the same time to collect the pill. So each of the 4 people only needed to play 2, and could be solved perfectly. Now the only thing to worry about was the cooperation of the 4 alchemists, but he believed that as long as everyone practiced for a period of time, they could solve this problem. For the proposal of the medicinal hall master, the high-level officials of Taishaman were happy to agree. It was definitely better to master the refining techniques of their own alchemists than to rely on Yangchun again and again. It was precisely because of the breakthrough in the refining of the spirit congealing pill that Taishaman were completely determined to get the pill recipes of the questioning inner heart pill and the heaven-seizing pill. Now that the questioning inner heart pill recipe has been in hand, Sect Master Li seems to have seen the scene of Taishaman dominating the world. With the questioning inner heart pill and Li Liheng's double insurance, it was impossible for Taishaman not to dominate. While the high-level officials of Taishaman were excited, Elder Hu Qianyi had other plans. As a disciple of Taishaman, of course, he was happy for Taishaman to dominate the world. However, if he was inside Taishaman, he definitely hoped that his status would be higher. He was already in the Deshang stage. According to reason, as long as he concentrated on his cultivation, he could naturally achieve ascension. However, Elder Hu obviously still had selfish motives. A large number of his disciples and grandchildren were suppressed and bullied because of his injuries. He couldn't swallow this. Moreover, in order to fight for that 5th-grade medicinal pill, he paid a great price. As a beneficiary of the medicinal pill, he had to consider more for these disciples and grandchildren. Casually finding a reason, Elder Hu did not follow Mao Qi again, but went to another place. As a Deshang stage elder, the sect would never stop the elder from going out to do some private affairs. In a remote area, Elder Hu's figure and appearance underwent some changes. Then, he slowly turned in another direction and entered a small school with a little bit of fame. Of course, there were only 2 Yuanying stage masters in this sect, but one of them was an alchemist master. This sect was secretly supported by Elder Hu and did not use any resources of the sect. It was purely the result of his own pocket. The people inside were also loyal to him, the great elder who couldn't be seen. This is the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill. Elder Hu gave the pill recipe that he forcibly memorized to the alchemist master named Zhu Shiyuan in the secret room. You pick it up and study it, see if you can refine it. Questioning inner heart pill. Zhu Shiyuan was shocked. Then he took the jade slip that recorded the pill recipe with surprise and asked in disbelief, Yang Chen's questioning inner heart pill. The questioning inner heart pill had now been branded with the name of Yang Chen, and the whole world knew it. Speaking of the questioning inner heart pill, everyone was talking about Yang Chen's questioning inner heart pill. Nodding silently, Hu Qianyi did not speak. There was only one questioning inner heart pill. There was no other branch. It must be Yang Chen's. This disciple has recently made a friend. He knows some secrets of Yang Chen. Zhu Shiyuan suddenly reported to Hu Qianyi, I don't know if the great elder wants to know. Chapter 894. Yang Chen's secret. Hu Qianyi turned his eyes and asked Zhu Shiyuan, what kind of secret? The secret of alchemy. Zhu Shiyuan immediately replied. That friend said that he knows why Yang Chen can become a 5th-grade alchemist, and why he knows so many elixir recipes that ordinary people don't know. Oh, Hu Qianyi immediately took it seriously. How is it possible that someone knew the secret of Yang Chen's alchemy? Everyone knew that Yang Chen must have some secret of alchemy, but no one knew what it was or which inheritance it came from. Chunyang Palace did not have a senior alchemist since the beginning of the ancestors, so it was definitely not the inheritance of Chunyang Palace. Yang Chun liked to collect some miscellaneous books, which became a well-known thing. He must have obtained the alchemy secrets from a certain miscellaneous book. Someone actually knew the secret of Yang Chun. This was a big deal. Hu Qinyi also got up and asked, "What is the secret?" He refused to say. Zhu Xuan reported helplessly, "He will only say it if you agree to his conditions and swear by your heart demon." "What conditions?" Hu Qinyi asked with a frown. He was most annoyed by this kind of person who always asked for conditions. Obediently hand over the things. Could it be that you won't get any benefits? People who stayed in Taishaman for a long time naturally had a domineering idea. Unless we swear to deal with Yang Chen together, and he wants to make a copy of Yang Chen's alchemy secrets, he will not hand over the secret, Zhu Xuan said quickly. But he also promised that as long as he can kill Yang Chen and get the thing on Yang Chen, he can also make his disciple a fifth-grade alchemist. That thing? Hu Qinyi's eyes suddenly lit up. It was amazing that Yang Chen became a fifth-grade alchemist. How could there be a fifth-grade alchemist in this world? If he relied on a certain magic weapon, it could be explained. Once this thing falls into his hands, it means that he can also create a fifth-grade alchemist. Zhu Xiyuan was loyal to Hu Qinyi. At that time, as long as he promoted Zhu Xiyuan, let Zhu Xiyuan become a fifth-grade alchemist, and then pulled him to the Taishaman, the entire Taishaman, who could compete with him. Having made up his mind, Hu Qinyi nodded slightly and ordered Zhu Xiyuan, "Where's your friend? Go find him." Zhu Xiyuan agreed and left quickly. In less than a day, he brought a person to Hu Qinyi. If Yang Chen was there, he would definitely recognize that the person Zhu Xiyuan brought was Gao Jing, who was refining elixir when he collected the medicine-nourishing gourd. He was scared away by Yang Chen after he killed a few people and never appeared again. Greetings to the Supreme Elder. After Gao Jing followed, he was very respectful to Hu Qinyi. He has been told by Zhu Xiyuan, and naturally, he was very respectful, especially after knowing that Hu Qinyi was a master of the Deshang stage. He felt that he had great confidence in dealing with Yang Chen this time. "This old man swears by my heart. I can help you deal with Yang Chen." Hu Qinyi stared at Gao Jing for a while, and when Gao Jing was a little restless, Hu Qinyi said. As soon as he opened his mouth, he went straight to the topic, which made Gao Jing surprised and happy. A master of the Deshang stage was willing to help, which was unimaginable for Gao Jing in the past. He had already talked about this matter with a few familiar friends, but when those friends heard that it was to deal with Yang Chen, they all shook their heads like a rattle drum and kept a respectful distance from him for fear of being contaminated with his bad luck. Gao Jing also knew that the major sex killing of the personality who dared to hit Yang Chen had already scared these people. But Gao Jing was really unwilling. He finally found the perfect place for alchemy, but he was scared away by Yang Chen. When he went back later, he found that the mountain had disappeared. From the outline of the disappeared mountain, Gao Jing saw that it should be a gourd. Soon after, the news that Yang Chen had become a fifth-grade alchemist master came out. At first, Gao Jing didn't know that it was Yang Chen. Later, with the help of a familiar friend, he got a portrait of Yang Chen. Only then did he know that Yang Chen, who took the gourd, was the recently popular fifth-grade alchemist Master Yang Chen. A fifth-grade alchemist master, a magic gourd that could improve the success rate of alchemy. If there was no connection, Gao Jing would not believe it. When he thought that he had found the place first, but was driven away by Yang Chen, and then the gourd was snatched away, Gao Jing was full of anger. Originally, it should have been him who became a fifth-grade alchemist master. Now it was easy for the younger generation junior to take advantage of it, and he also made himself run away in embarrassment. The questioning inner heart pill was made by Yang Chen a long time ago. It was certain that Yang Chen must have some pill recipes. But the alchemy technique was not something that a Jidan stage junior could promote to the fifth grade by himself. It must be related to the magic gourd. Gao Jing himself knew that if he united the masters and finally succeeded in dealing with Yang Chen, he would not be able to get the gourd. But Yang Chen's pill recipe secret book could be used as an idea. As long as he made a copy, the masters who got the magic gourd would not mind such a small request. Hu Qinyi directly swore to Gao Jing's heart demon, and he was also a master of the Deshang stage. which showed that Hu Qianyi had the intention to deal with Yang Chun. This was exactly what Gao Jing wanted. He couldn't wait for someone to share his hatred against the enemy and deal with the guy who several major sects had to protect. Seeing Hu Qianyi swear, Gao Jing couldn't wait to tell what he had experienced personally. Hu Qianyi and Zhu Xuan, who listened carefully next to him, became more and more focused and did not make any sound during the whole process. Is this true? When Gao Jing finished, Hu Qianyi raised his head and asked, "This younger generation junior swears by heart demon. It is absolutely true." In order to show his sincerity, Gao Jing immediately raised his right hand and made a poison oath. Gao Jing dared to swear by his heart demon. This matter could certainly not be far from the truth. Moreover, when Gao Jing was talking, Hu Qianyi had been staring at Gao Jing's performance with his spiritual awareness. Any lie would always have some clues of guilt, but from beginning to end, Gao Jing did not show any signs of lying. Combining the two, this thing was definitely not a fiction made up by Gao Jing. A magic gourd that could improve the success rate of alchemy outside. If it was obtained, what effect would it have on the alchemy master? There was almost no need to guess too much. The reason why Yang Chun could become a 5th-grade alchemy master was simply obvious. This kind of good thing, how could Yang Chun, a little Jidon stage junior, have it? Chapter 895. To deal with Yang Chun, the risk to take now was not small. Including Taishaman, they have all sent a note to the outside world. If they dared to deal with Yang Chun, it was a dead end. But Hu Qianyi didn't care. He was the great elder of Taishaman. Could it be that the Taishaman still dared to sanction him? Other sect, even the Green Jade Immortal Island, Blue Cloud sect, Five Elements sect, and Chinquin sect, would they dare to blatantly deal with him, the elder of Taishaman? The innate advantage of his identity allowed Hu Qianyi to ignore the threat of several major sects to a large extent. Moreover, as long as Yang Chun was successfully killed and the thing was obtained, the 5th-grade alchemist master could immediately make another one and bring Zhu Shuyuan to join Taishaman. Wouldn't those people still have to look at the face of Taishaman? This was something that would not only elevate his own status, but would also benefit the sect. Whether it was emotional or personal, Hu Qianyi had no reason to stand idly by. However, all of this was based on the successful killing of Yang Chun and the successful obtaining of the medicine refining gourd. Otherwise, even if it was the sect, it must give an explanation to the outside world. Only if the sect could have the key to hold the lifeline of other major sects would they support Hu Qianyi. It was not so easy to deal with Yang Chun. At least during this period of time, it was not easy. Chunyang Palace wanted to prepare for Yang Chen's wedding. Yang Chen had been hiding in Chunyang Palace and did not go out. There was basically no chance to make a move. Unless they immediately fell out with Chunyang Palace and directly went to the door, no matter who made a move against Yang Chun, they would be the target of the joint efforts of several major sects at this moment. Before getting Yang Chen's medicine refining gourd, even Hu Qianyi did not have the confidence to bear such consequences. Fortunately, Yang Chun was a playboy. He wanted to marry 4 women at once, which gave Hu Qianyi an opportunity. Dealing with the people around Yang Chun, especially the woman he loved, seemed to be able to force Yang Chun to submit. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were both in the sect with Yang Chun. Dealing with them was just like dealing with Yang Chun, which was unrealistic. However, Yang Chun still has 2 fiancées, one in the Green Jade Immortal Island and the other in the Blue Cloud sect, and these 2 women seemed to like to go out alone. Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue were both from prestigious sections. Their talents were outstanding, and their cultivation progress was tremendous. With the protection of the sect, when the 2 girls went out, no one dared to do anything to them. Anyone must think of the consequences of offending the Green Jade, Immortal Island, and Blue Cloud sect, and at the same time bear the huge risk of offending Yang Chun. But because of this, Hu Qianyi would be given a chance. Others would never think that someone would dare to do anything to the 2 women. Even the Green Jade, Immortal Island, and Blue Cloud sect would not expect it. The 2 little girls in the Jidon stage, in front of Hu Qianyi, a master of the Deshang stage, really had no resistance. As long as Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue were restrained, Even if it was either of them, Yang Chun would have to listen to Hu Qianyi's command. For these two fiancés, Yang Chun was said to be very fond of them, especially with another layer of relationship. The two women were related to the cooperation between Chunyang Palace and the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect, and Yang Chun had to pay attention to it. Once something happened to the two women, Yang Chun would have to bear the anger of the two sect. This kind of talented disciple was a treasure in any sect. If Yang Chun didn't want anything to happen to the two women, he could only be obedient. Even Hu Qianyi had already planned that as long as Yang Chun was obedient, he didn't mind letting his former savior live. His goal was Yang Chen's alchemy secrets and the medicine refining gourd. Without these, Yang Chun, a small Jidan stage junior, was insignificant. At that time, maybe Chunyang Palace would give up on Yang Chun and let him taste the fate of being deserted. Of course, Hu Qianyi had Hu Qianyi's resources. The whereabouts of Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue. He immediately sent people to inquire about it. Hu Qianyi himself, together with Zhu Xiyuan and Gao Jing, began to plan how to deal with the two women. Finally, they would capture them alive. If it was a last resort, they could only kill them. Yang Chun was happy at the moment. Hall Master Mao Qi was really straightforward. In just a few months, he ran back and forth from Chunyang Palace to Taishimen. This time, Hall Master Mao personally brought 10 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds to exchange with Yang Chun for the method of harmonizing the monster's core. Until now, Yang Chun has not admitted that what he sold was the pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill. It was a matter of reputation. Yang Chun did not want to bear the reputation of taking away the pill recipe of the Xiang family. But Mao Qi obviously didn't think so. In his opinion, the pill recipe combination of this monster core should be part of the questioning inner heart pill. Otherwise, what kind of medicinal pill could be refined by the monster core of the Deshang stage? However, since Yang Chun insisted, Mao Qi would not stubbornly say that this was the pill recipe of the heaven-seizing pill. Everyone was a cultivator, and they had a tacit understanding. Anyway, the result of the transaction would not change. Why bother about such a small thing? In the next few months, Yang Chun made 3 vows with his heart demon, each time to prove that his pill recipe was true. In this regard, Yang Chun has always had no regrets. Wherever he went, he could confidently say that what he gave was the real pill recipe. Therefore, from the beginning to the end, Yang Chun did not worry that this heart demon oath would come true. After sending away home Master Mao Qi, Yang Chun couldn't help but be a little surprised by his gains in the past few months. 3 kinds of 7th-grade fire seeds and 10 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds were obtained so easily that Yang Chun couldn't believe it. If these fire seeds were not stored in Yang Chun's merit ring and could be seen and touched at any time, Yang Chun would suspect that he was dreaming. In his previous life, when he won a 5th-grade fire seed, Yang Chun almost lost his life. Now, in the eyes of Yang Chun, the 5th-grade fire seed was no longer a rare thing. At most, it was a precious item worth a little spirit stone. In his previous life, Yang Chun achieved the realm of Great Principal Golden Immortal by relying on a 5th-grade fire seed, True Sunfire. In this life, he already had 4 kinds of 7th-grade fire seeds and more than a dozen kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds. One day, when all these fire seeds were integrated into the Yin-Yang Heaven-Burning Fire, Yang Chun's development potential would be so great that even Yang Chun himself couldn't imagine it. In a few years, he would get married. After marriage, he would double cultivate the great Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art with several beautiful wives, and then perfect the great Yin and Yang 5 elements flying sword. Was there any place in this world that Yang Chun couldn't go? Even Yang Chun, who already had the memory of a great principal golden immortal, couldn't help but get excited. When the great Yin and Yang 5 elements flying sword was gathered and the great Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art was completed, it was time to find the Taishimen to settle accounts. The painful experiences experienced in his previous life must be resolved by the Taishimen with the end of extermination. Just when Chunyang Palace and Yang Chun were busy preparing for Yang Chen's marriage, bad news suddenly came. 2 of Yang Chen's fiancés, the cold plum fairy Shi Shan of the green jade Immortal Island, and the dancing snow fairy Sun Qingxue of the blue cloud sect had an accident on their way back to the sect to get married. Chapter 896. The news was not from the blue cloud sect and the green jade Immortal Island that Yang Chun was familiar with, but a Yuanying stage ancestor that he had never seen before. He claimed to be Zhu Shiyuan, a rogue cultivator, and he sent a jade slip with some news and disappeared without a trace. The Chunyang Palace reception disciple who received the jade slip did not dare to neglect, and did not dare to say whether the matter was true or false, and hurriedly sent it to the hands of the palace master. The palace master was also shocked, and quickly called Yang Chun and gave him the jade slip. The information on the jade slip was very simple. It told Yang Chun that his two fiancés, Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue, had fallen into the hands of the other party, and Yang Chun had to take his own alchemy secrets and rush to a certain place before a certain time to exchange them. There was no signature, and there was no evidence, just a simple jade slip. However, no one dared to take this lightly. Not to mention the identity of Yang Chen's fiancée. The two women were the leaders of the younger generation of the Blue Cloud sect and the Green Jade Immortal Island. In the future, they would be the core masters of the sect. If they were kidnapped, this was a big deal. The only thing that was somewhat puzzling was that the other party did not have any evidence, and just sent such a jade slip, making it difficult to distinguish the authenticity. If he really went according to the other party's words, once the two women did not have an accident, he would be played for no reason. But if he didn't go, he had to worry about the safety of the two women. How long has the person who delivered the letter been gone? Yang Chun received the jade slip and immediately had a calculation in his heart. He hurriedly asked the disciple in charge of the reception. It has been an hour. The reception disciple did not dare to neglect and quickly replied. As soon as he received the jade slip, he quickly reported to the palace master. However, from the mountain gate to here, including the time to call people back and forth, it took a full hour. For such a long time, it was obviously not so easy to find a guy who sent a message and left. However, this did not seem to be a big problem for Yang Chun. The spiritual awareness threads cultivated by the three purities' secret art stretched out to the surrounding. Even the master of the palace, who was close at hand, did not seem to notice the changes in Yang Chen's spiritual awareness threads. The main target of the exploration of the spiritual awareness threads was the Yuanying stage ancestors within a range. Now, if Yang Chun fully unfolded his spiritual consciousness, it would be able to cover a radius of thousands of miles. No matter how fast the guy named Zhu Shiyuan ran, it was impossible for him to leave this area in just an hour. However, there was a drawback to using the divine sense to explore with all its strength. It was very strenuous, and the exhaustion of the divine sense was very difficult to get rid of. Therefore, even someone as strong as Yang Chun did not use his divine sense to its full extent all the time. He only expanded it to a radius of 100 feet, so that the slightest movement in the surroundings could be directly alerted. Therefore, Yang Chun did not know Zhu Shiyuan's arrival. But at this moment, under the deliberate control of Yang Chun, the divine sense only took a while to reach 1,000 miles away, and it was still spreading further. Within the scope of Yang Chen's divine sense, no one could detect any abnormalities. However, everyone's cultivation base was almost immediately detected by Yang Chun. The other party was a Yuanying stage ancestor, and of course, Yang Chun also prioritized looking for the Yuanying stage ancestor. In just a few breaths, he found several Yuanying stage ancestors. In fact, Yang Chun knew that when the old tree demon crossed his tribulation, the Meiqing Mountain was covered with tree species. As long as he found the old tree demon, he would definitely know where the other party disappeared. But for the time being, Yang Chun did not want to let the old tree demon's ability appear in front of everyone. This was a life-saving means of the Chunyang Palace that could be compared to the Mountain Protection Array. It was not worth the loss if it was exposed at once. At this time, he could only use his own divine sense to find the guy who sent the jade slip. If it didn't work, he would find the old tree demon Gue Shanyu for help. Pulling the reception disciple onto the shuttle, Yang Chun apologized to the head of the palace and drove the shuttle away quickly, flying towards several targets that he had already delineated. While flying, he did not forget to look for the Yuanying stage ancestor further away. The outside of the shuttle was covered with the sea jasper cup, and no one would find it. And when he was close to the target, Yang Chun would control the shuttle to fly through the ground, and then let the reception disciple identify whether it was the person who sent the jade slip. He found several Yuanying stage ancestors who appeared around, and the reception disciple said that it was not him. But soon, Yang Chun did not need to receive the disciple and identify the person. The person he was looking for had already been locked by Yang Chen's divine sense thread. The reason why Yang Chun was sure that this guy was the Yuanying stage ancestor who sent the jade slip was because the spiritual awareness imprint left on the jade slip was exactly the same as this guy. It was simply his own engraving. There are some things that were not easy to let the reception disciple know. Yang Chun found a suitable place and sent the reception disciple off the shuttle, and then flew alone toward the guy who claimed to be Zhu Xiyuan. Zhu Xiyuan's speed of departure was very fast. From the time he sent the jade slip to the present, he had been away from the Chunyang Palace Mountain Gate for more than 2,000 miles. Just when he thought that no one could find him again, Yang Chen's figure suddenly appeared in front of him. As an alchemist master who always pays attention to the negative trends of alchemy, how could Zhu Xiyuan not recognize Yang Chen's face? When Yang Chen appeared, there was a bang in Zhu Xiyuan's mind. He knew that it was not good, but he didn't know what went wrong. How could Yang Chen catch up with him? He knew that it was not good, but Zhu Xiyuan did not panic. He was a Yuanying stage ancestor, and Yang Chen was only in the late Jidan stage. This big realm gap made Zhu Xiyuan not afraid of what Yang Chen could do to him. He was just curious about how Yang Chen could find him so accurately. "Senior, please stay." Yang Chen smiled and blocked Zhu Xiyuan's path, but the smile on his face could not conceal the coldness in his eyes. "What advice does Master Yang have?" Zhu Xiyuan cupped his hands at Yang Chen. Yang Chen was now a 5th-grade alchemist master. As long as it was an alchemist master, now facing Yang Chen, no matter how high the seniority was, how much the qualifications, they would call him master. Although Zhu Xiyuan was reluctant in his heart, he still appeared to be very well-behaved. Straightforward people don't talk in riddles. Yang Chen threw the jade slip to Zhu Xiyuan. "Senior, please explain, what does this jade slip mean?" When Yang Chen spoke, Zhu Xiyuan had already explored the surroundings with his spiritual awareness. It seemed that there was only Yang Chen in front of him, not Chunyang Palace. After confirming this point, Zhu Xiyuan also quietly breathed a sigh of relief. It was just Yang Chen alone. Maybe without any tricks, he could capture Yang Chen. This place was far away from Meiqing Mountain, not within the territory of Chunyang Palace, so he was not afraid of the people of Chunyang Palace. It could really be said that one could wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching only to find it by chance. Chapter 897. "It means," Zhu Xiyuan said slowly, but then his body was like a compressed spring, slamming into Yang Chen. Although he was an alchemist master, Zhu Xiyuan did not put down his spiritual power cultivation on weekdays. Even at the request of Uqiani, he also took out a period of time to gain experience in the demon sex of the monster race. His skills were not sloppy at all. The only thing missing was that there was no suitable magic weapon. Although he had reached the realm of the Yuanying stage ancestor, he still did not have a suitable magic weapon. But in the face of Yang Chen, a junior in the Jidan stage, so what if he did not have a magic weapon? The gap in the big realm was by no means eliminated by 1 or 2 magic weapons. In Chunyang Palace, Zhu Xiyuan certainly had no chance to make a move. Even if he had, he did not dare to make a move. The problem wasn't it the wilderness now, and there was no one else present? The reason why he set up such a big game, and also tried his best to find out the whereabouts of the Cold Plum Fairy and Dancing Snow Fairy, and his master personally captured the 2 fairies as a Deshang stage master. What was it for? Wasn't it to lure Yang Chen out of his hiding place so that he could capture him? Now Yang Chen was in front of him. There was no other helper, and he appeared in front of him stupidly. Such a good opportunity. If Zhu Shiyuan wasted this godsend opportunity, then he would be a pighead. Making a move without saying anything was also the only way in battle. In a life-and-death situation, who would care about those trifles? Could it be that he still had to talk about etiquette and reason with the enemy? Could it be that he had to learn from those guys in the secular world, who would not die under a nameless ghost? For the time being, Zhu Shiyuan was just a spy placed by Hu Qianni outside the Taishamen, and he was not a person of the Taishamen. Although Hu Qianni also used some resources of the Taishamen to deliberately cultivate Zhu Shiyuan, he did not tell Zhu Shiyuan everything. After all, there was still a difference between the close and the distant. This could be seen from the fact that Zhu Shiyuan was already in the Yuanying stage but did not have a magic weapon. Because of this reason, Zhu Shiyuan was unfortunately not told some things. For example, Yang Chun once killed 6 Yuanying stage masters of the Taishamen in an instant. This matter was simply a great shame for the Taishamen. Even among the Taishamen, except for the high level, few people knew about it, let alone Zhu Shiyuan. If Zhu Shiyuan knew about this, he would never have thought of attacking Yang Chun when he and Yang Chun were alone. Unfortunately, there were many such accidents and misfortunes in this world, and Zhu Shiyuan happened to encounter all of them. Before Zhu Shiyuan could realize what was happening, he was directly blocked in the air by a tyrannical force. Immediately after, he felt a sharp pain in his throat. The spiritual power in his body seemed to have suddenly lost control and dissipated. He could no longer use any spiritual power in his body. His body was soft, and Zhu Shiyuan, who had no strength to struggle, realized at this time that in this moment he had been grabbed by the throat by Yang Chun with one hand, and one arm was held high in the air. The power of that hand was so great that Zhu Shiyuan, a Yuanying stage ancestor, who had been baptized by the Thunder Tribulation, could not break the hand that was holding him. In the next moment, Zhu Shiyuan completely gave up resistance. He had already noticed that the hand that was holding his throat was tightening a little bit. If he wanted to struggle again, his throat might be crushed immediately. I really want to know what happened. Senior, can you solve my doubts? Yang Chen's tone was very respectful, but his actions at the moment were not respectful at all. At this moment, Zhu Shiyuan's mind was completely filled with shock, despair, and regret. Where would he dare to have other thoughts? He wanted to nod, but he found that it was difficult to even move his fingers. He could only make a few hum sounds as an answer to Yang Chun. A Yuanying stage ancestor was caught by a junior in the late Jidan stage with one hand, and it was even in the case of a Yuanying stage ancestor. If he was not the unlucky Yuanying stage ancestor who was caught, Zhu Shiyuan would never believe such a thing from the mouth of others. Even Zhu Shiyuan did not know what happened so far. During the whole process, he did not feel that Yang Chun used a magic weapon, nor did he find that Yang Chun used spiritual power. It seemed that Yang Chun used physical strength to crush his body protection spiritual power with one hand and then grab his throat. The whole process was so short that even Zhu Shiyuan, the person involved, could not believe this result. Wasn't Yang Chun a junior in the middle Jidan stage? How could this be? Snap! Zhu Shiyuan's spiritual power and mobility were directly sealed, and he was thrown to the ground softly. Yang Chun was about to use means to ask questions, but after thinking about it, he still brought Zhu Shiyuan back to the Chunyang Palace. The master of the palace had gathered several elders. This matter was really too tricky, not to mention whether it was true or false. It should be true, but the other party actually asked Yang Chun to go alone, and the time was very tight, and it was even too late to notify the Blue Cloud sect and the Green Jade Immortal Island. The 2 women were arrested. This was a big event. Whether it was public or private, Yang Chun had to face this situation. He could only send Wang Yong and the Old Tree Demon to go with Yang Chun. Anyway, Yang Chun had a medicine garden, and it was more than enough to take 2 masters. The only thing to worry about was that the other party would hurt the 2 women, Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue. In addition to being Yang Chen's fiancée, the main identity was also the genius disciple of the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect. If they were hurt because of Yang Chun, perhaps the 2 major sect would not give up. He didn't know who ate the bear's heart and the leopard's courage. and even dared to touch the two major sect heads. Now, he could only see the truth of the matter first, and then study the way to deal with it. From the perspective of the sect, Yang Chun couldn't have an accident in any case. As for the alchemy's secrets, it was a trivial matter. For the safety of the two women, when necessary, they should give it up. After all, there were many cultivation methods in this world, but there were only a few who really became masters. Not everyone could become a fifth-grade alchemist master with a secret book. During the discussion, Yang Chun had returned to the hall of the sect with a gust of wind. Wang Yong looked at the look of Yang Chun, and without saying a word, he raised his hand and made a restriction, sealing the hall. Immediately, Yang Chun threw Zhu Shuyuan in front of the elders. It was this guy who sent the jade slip, and the jade slip was also engraved with his spiritual awareness. Yang Chun didn't say much, but he said what he knew. As for the next step, it was up to the master of the palace to decide.